Han Sanchen, a young man who possessed immortality in a world consumed by the pursuit of fame and wealth, understood that finding a life partner would resolve all his troubles. He believed that together they could overcome any challenges that lay ahead. However, he doubted his ability to achieve this until a young woman slapped him, triggering a recollection of an incident 3 hours prior. During that event, he discovered that the prestigious Yanjing Han family required his assistance. Shockingly, they were concerned about their lineage's continuation. 3 years ago, Han Sanchen was banished from the Zuosa family by his grandmother, who feared he might jeopardize his brother's position as the heir. Since then, he endured various forms of negativity. Despite his reluctance, he refused to return, questioning the benefits of begging for acceptance. The person sent to deliver his grandmother's message found themselves at a loss, unsure of how to convey Han Sanchen's response. Perplexed, they observed Han Sanchen as he departed on his scooter, expressing his desire for tranquility and an aversion to any disturbances. Han Sanchen, the son-in-law of the esteemed Su family in Yunqing and the husband of Su Yingxia, the city's renowned beauty. Despite belonging to a humble background, the Su family had garnered a certain level of fame within Yunqing's building materials sector. 3 years ago, Han Sanchen joined the Zuosa family, initially seen as an undesirable addition. However, as they got to know him better during a dinner, he seamlessly integrated into their family. Unfortunately, being married to the Su family's beauty came with its challenges. Shortly after their wedding, the elder of the Su family, who had orchestrated the marriage, passed away due to an illness. Curiously, even after the elder's demise, Han Sanchen continued to be recognized as the son-in-law, leaving everyone puzzled about the reasons behind this decision. As Han Sanchen arrived at the Su family's residence, he parked his scooter and noticed that the family's parking lot seemed a bit small. Taking a moment to ensure his attire was neat, he prepared to enter the house. Su Yingxia, his wife, inquired about his sudden arrival, to which Han Sanchen explained that he had been delayed as he had gone to purchase a gift for his grandmother. Anxiously, Su Yingxia pleaded with him to hasten inside. The family members, relieved to see Su Yingxia's arrival, initially attributed their tardiness to traffic on the way. However, upon being reminded that it was her grandmother's birthday that day, Yingxia admitted her carelessness. Playfully, the family members teased Han Sanchen, implying that his sole responsibility was to take care of household chores for Yingxia. At that moment, Su Haiqiu, Yingxia's cousin, entered the scene and questioned Han Sanchen about the item he held in his hand, wondering if it was a gift for their grandmother. He was trying to insult Han Sanchen as much as possible while trashing down his name in front of everybody that joined together to celebrate the birthday. Su Haiqiu responded with anger, exclaiming that it was their grandmother's 80th birthday and Han Sanchen had the audacity to present such a worthless item. In response, Han Sanchen confidently displayed the gift, emphasizing that it was carefully selected from a reputable gift shop. He proudly displayed his gift, a precious, aged Chinese tea worth a staggering 880,000 yuan, intended for his grandmother. The extravagant nature of the gift left everyone astounded. With this grand gesture, Haiqiu then turned his attention to Yingxia, raising doubts about whether Han Sanchen, whom he derogatorily referred to as a piece of trash, truly deserved respect. Haiqiu locked eyes with Yingxia as he expressed his belief that Han Sanchen did not appreciate her grandmother's birthday. He questioned whether Yingxia had noticed that Han Sanchen lacked any redeeming qualities. Perhaps Yingxia hadn't been aware of this, given her long-standing relationship with Han Sanchen, which might have blinded her to his true nature, diminishing her self-worth and pride. In response to Haiqiu's provocation, Han Sanchen approached him and arrogantly snatched the aged Chinese tea from his hands, bringing it close to his nose to discern its fragrance. After Han Sanchen confronted Haiqiu about the tea, Haiqiu arrogantly snatched the gift back, claiming it was meant for his grandmother and that Han Sanchen had no right to touch it. However, Han Sanchen remembered the information his friend had shared about the different grades and types of Chinese tea, as well as the deceptive practices used by some sellers. He pointed out that the tea Haiqiu bought for his grandmother was already showing signs of deterioration and had an unusual smell. Han Sanchen explained that the mostly green and dark green appearance indicated that it was raw tea, which could be harmful if not properly aged. As Han Sanchen raised doubts about Haiqiu's purchase, other family members began to question Haiqiu's credibility. Haiqiu retaliated, accusing Han Sanchen of lying and insisting that his grandmother hadn't consumed tea for the past 2 years. However, Han Sanchen realized that Haiqiu had deliberately brought the tea for his grandmother, knowing she no longer drank it. This way, if the product turned out to be faulty, Heicho's true intentions wouldn't be exposed. The family members started to realize that Heicho was willing to deceive Su Yingsha's grandmother, which was unacceptable. Heicho defended himself by claiming that Han Sanchen had fabricated accusations against him and that Han Sanchen knew nothing about the Chinese tea he purchased. However, this statement only fueled suspicion among the family members, considering Han Sanchen's role as the family cook for Yingsha. Yingsha asked Han Sanchen if he was certain about his claims, urging him not to cause further trouble. Han Sanchen reassured her that his friend wouldn't lie to him and that she need not worry about the issue. Just then, Yingsha's grandmother arrived, curious about the commotion. She inquired about the gathering, and Yingsha explained that it revolved around the Chinese tea cake Heicho had brought as a birthday gift. Han Sanchen had noticed that the cake seemed mass-produced. However, before Yingsha could finish her statement, Heicho interjected, declaring it a lie. This prompted Yingsha to question Heicho about the authenticity of the tea. Heicho dismissed Yingsha's concerns, labeling her statements as nonsense and advising her grandmother not to listen to her. To settle the dispute, Yingsha's grandmother requested to inspect the gift herself. Upon examination, she declared the cake to be genuine, surprising Heicho. Turning to Han Sanchen, she asked why he had slandered Heicho. Heicho was pleased with the grandmother's validation of the tea cake. Yingsha, considering Han Sanchen's behavior in front of her mother, pleaded with her grandmother not to be angry at him, asserting that he didn't understand the situation. Heicho further claimed that Han Sanchen was attempting to defame the authentic gift. Yingsha then requested Han Sanchen to apologize to Heicho. However, Han Sanchen remained steadfast in his belief that the tea cake was of poor quality. Before he could elaborate on his point, his wife abruptly slapped him, demanding that he stop speaking and apologize immediately. Disoriented by the slap, Han Sanchen struggled to regain focus but ultimately apologized to Heicho, bowing deeply in front of him and admitting that he had misjudged the cake. In response, Heicho also bowed low and told Han Sanchen that even if the gift turned out to be fake, his grandmother would still support him because he was her grandson, while Han Sanchen was merely a failure as a son-in-law. After Heicho and everyone left, Han Sanchen's wife approached him and mentioned that she owes him a slap, but Han Sanchen understood that she was trying to avoid a more severe situation. He thanked her for helping him realize the harsh reality without lashing out at her. Yingsha, who had angrily left earlier, overheard Han Sanchen's statement about changing and turned back. Han Sanchen assured her that he was willing to change for her because she was the only one who could inspire such a transformation. However, Yingsha emphasized that he needed to have the means and resources before proclaiming such intentions since useless garbage would never leave their household. In his mind, Han Sanchen determined to show Yingsha what real resources and capabilities meant. Madame Su sat at the round table with her family members, celebrating her birthday. They toasted to her health and prosperity when suddenly, someone burst into the room, announcing the arrival of additional gifts brought by someone else. It was a man who claimed to be representing the Han family and had been asked to send their congratulations to Madame Su. The Su family members found it amusing and laughed, thinking that the Han family was making a joke. Even Han Sanchen, perplexed by his family's actions and their attempt to push him into the Zuosa family, couldn't understand why they were treating him this way. Su Yingsha considered asking her husband if he had planned it, but she decided against it. The man continued to list the items in the gift boxes, and then he mentioned a cash gift of 8,880,000 yuan, which shocked everyone present. The sight of the large sum of money led them to believe that the Han family wanted to propose a marriage alliance, possibly seeking a bride from their family. The man clarified that they were only permitted to give gifts and nothing more. After offering his congratulations, he left with the bearers. The Su family members became nervous and started promoting themselves, especially Su Yihan, who declared herself the most beautiful and deserving candidate for the lucky bride. Su Heicho added fuel to the fire, mocking Su Yingsha for marrying someone he considered garbage, and suggesting that she could only watch as others married successful and useful people. These words darkened Han Sanchen and Su Yingsha's expressions. Unable to bear the mockery any longer, Su Yingsha stood up in anger, slamming her hands on the table and demanding that Su Heicho and Su Yihan not take the matter too far. Madame Su intervened, offering to personally handle the conflict and decide the fate of the gifts. Han Sanchen felt that Madame Su was being biased as she interrupted his wife, but allowed her cousins to taunt her earlier. Meanwhile, Su Yingsha's mother, Zhang Lan, vented her frustration, regretting her decision to marry her daughter to Han Sanchin, whom she referred to as trash. Her husband Su Goyo tried to calm her down, but his attempts only escalated the argument. Jiang Lan was more concerned about inheritance issues and urged her husband to facilitate a quick divorce between the young couple. However, Su Goyo explained that divorce was not an option, as his father had informed them, and proceeding with it would make them the laughingstock of the city once again. Su Yingxia watched the argument unfold, leaning against the wall, while Han Sanchin sat on the floor in another room, listening to the discussion between his in-laws. Su Yingxia finally declared that she would not divorce Han Sanchin, redirecting her mother's anger toward herself. Her mother questioned her sanity for making such a statement, but Su Yingxia continued, stating that although her husband may not be promising, he is hardworking. She acknowledged that he had been handling all the household chores himself for the past few years. Despite looking down on him, she confessed that she never hated him. Su Yingxia further asserted that Madame Su would never allow them to divorce because the old lady was more concerned about the Su family's reputation than their well-being. With these words, she left her parents behind and walked away. Han Sanchin was deeply moved by his wife's words and immediately called his mother to discuss some matters. Meanwhile, Su Yingxia, still in her nightwear, sat on the bed in her room. Han Sanchin entered without knocking, which made her self-conscious. However, she realized it was her husband, and they had a conversation. She tearfully expressed that Han Sanchin had already asked her the previous day if she wanted him to change. She revealed that she no longer wanted to be looked down upon and wished to live her life with dignity. Su Yingxia desired for those who had looked down upon her to regret their actions. Han Sanchin paid a visit to his mother to discuss the previous call they had. Confidently sitting in a chair, he expressed his astonishment that the once neglected and youngest son of the Han family could now be of use. His mother, pleased with his visit, revealed that Han Sanchin's grandmother had requested his return since his father was critically ill and his brother was in prison. This implied that Han Sanchin was now seen as the sole support for the family. Upon hearing this, Han Sanchin reflected on the 3 years that had passed and questioned why his family suddenly remembered him. He concluded that it was because his worthless brother had failed to meet the family's expectations. Han Sanchin's mother attempted to reason with him, acknowledging that it was unfair, but she was powerless against his grandmother's decision. Han Sanchin scoffed at his mother's words, recounting how he had strived for her attention throughout his childhood, yet no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't please her. He understood that his grandmother feared he would surpass his older brother as the family heir, which was why he was cast out. Han Sanchin believed that if his brother hadn't ended up in prison, his family wouldn't have given him a second thought. In response, he declared that his grandmother and mother were unworthy of being called his parents or relatives. His mother was left speechless, aware of her own faults. Han Sanchin hinted that he might help with the situation, leaving his mother to ask if he would be returning. He replied that he had one condition. With that, Han Sanchin left the room, clutching a credit card, recalling his mother's earlier words about his grandmother setting up a new company under his management. The credit card held the capital he needed to start the company. Han Sanchin saw it as a test from his grandmother, who doubted his abilities despite the urgency of the situation. Determined to prove himself as the rightful heir and not to be underestimated, Han Sanchin made up his mind. He vowed that everything the Han family owed him would slowly but surely be reclaimed. 3 days later, rumors of a massive storm and the establishment of a new company by the Yanjing Han family, Quanxi Industries, spread throughout the city and among China's elite families. Speculation arose about the Han family's intentions with the new company, which aimed to develop a new district. People wondered if the business would attract the attention of other major companies in the city. Su Yinghan, seizing the opportunity, boasted in her company that she was about to marry into a wealthy family due to the news circulating. She never missed a chance to taunt Su Yingxia about marrying Han Sanchin, whom she referred to as trash. In a conference room, Madame Su called for attention, addressing everyone present. She acknowledged that they must be aware of the Han family's new company and its plans to develop a new district. Madame Su proposed that if they could secure a deal with Quanxi Industries, everyone would benefit, despite their family's involvement in building materials. Su Heiko chimed in, stating that they were aware but so far, all attempts by other companies to discuss deals with Quanxi had been rejected. Su Gulin, Heiko's father, supported his son's statement, mentioning that they had already sent someone, but that person hadn't met the company's boss. Upon hearing this, Madame Su instructed them to try again, emphasizing that Quanxi had not yet decided on a business partner indicating they still had a chance. She suggested that if they couldn't meet the boss, they should wait in front of the company since everyone would take turns waiting. The family members hesitated, finding it embarrassing to stand outside the company. Taking advantage of the situation, Su Heiko proposed that Su Yingsha should be the one to do it since she hadn't been busy with work recently. This sudden turn of events shocked and startled Su Yingsha as she was focused somewhere else. The suggestion put forth by Su Heiko received immediate agreement from everyone, and they began expressing their reasons why Su Yingsha should not be the one to negotiate with Quanxi Industries. Madame Su noticed this and asked for Su Yingsha's opinion on the matter. Just as Su Yingsha was about to reply, she received a text from her husband, urging her to seize the opportunity and negotiate cooperation with Quanxi Industries. Confused by her husband's message, Su Yingsha considered whether she should take on the task or not. Ultimately, she decided to trust her husband's judgment. Standing up from her seat, she expressed her willingness to take on the task. Su Heiko and others doubted her ability to meet with the company's boss, expressing concerns about her capability to handle such a responsibility. Su Yingsha wondered why they were underestimating her, considering that the most difficult tasks always seemed to fall on her. However, she assured them that they didn't need to worry, as she was confident in her ability to secure cooperation with the company. In a mocking tone, Su Heiko laughed, stating that they didn't expect her to successfully negotiate with the company. He added that if she miraculously managed to do so, he would serve her some tea, but if she failed, they would disown her from the family. This startled Su Yingsha, but she accepted the challenge. As Su Yingsha left the company, Han Sanchen sat in a cafe across the street, observing his wife. The cafe owner approached him and offered him a cigarette, which Han Sanchen gladly accepted with thanks. The cafe owner recognized that Han Sanchen had come to see his wife finish work, a routine he had maintained for 2 to 3 years, rain or shine. Han Sanchen simply stated that he had nothing else to do. The cafe owner encouraged him to go out and pick up his wife, emphasizing that merely watching her wouldn't accomplish anything. Han Sanchen replied that the time wasn't right yet. Intrigued, the cafe owner asked if Han Sanchen knew why he, an ordinary person, had to marry into the Su family. Han Sanchen remarked that he seemed to have become a topic of discussion at the cafe, to which the owner quickly clarified that he was just curious, acknowledging that enduring such injustice was not something ordinary people could bear. He wondered how Han Sanchen could endure it. Han Sanchen, however, didn't view it that way. He explained that it was precisely because he was the son-in-law of the Su family that his wife became the target of ridicule and mockery from those who claimed to be family within the Su company. Despite this, his wife remained strong and hardworking and kept her burdens to herself. Compared to what she endured, he felt that his own struggles were insignificant. Han Sanchen entered the house carrying the groceries he had bought, only to find his mother-in-law yelling at his wife. She accused Su Heiko of intentionally provoking Su Yingsha and trying to drive them out of the Su family in order to secure a larger share of the family's property. Su Yingsha's father was also present, lost in thought, contemplating how their family would survive if they were kicked out of the house. Su Yingsha responded indifferently, stating that they would never know the outcome until they tried. Han Sanchen stood by his wife, assuring her parents that they should trust in their daughter, as she would undoubtedly succeed. In response, Su Yingsha's mother berated Han Sanchen, calling him worthless and ordering him to do his usual task of cooking for the family. Ignoring her mother's outburst, Su Yingsha followed her husband into the kitchen. Han Sanchen was seen chopping vegetables as Su Yingsha asked him if he still waited for her outside the company building after work. Startled, Han Sanchen reluctantly admitted that he had been doing so. Su Yingsha then told him not to wait at the restaurant anymore and instructed him to pick her up directly in front of the company, so they could go home together. Han Sanchen was stunned by the request and wanted to confirm if he had heard correctly. Su Yingsha replied that she wouldn't repeat herself, but wondered if she had misunderstood Han Sanchen's intentions. She asked if he didn't want to pick her up, to which he eagerly responded that he would love to. In the midst of their conversation, Su Yingsha's mother shouted that the vegetables were burning. Han Sanchen rushed over to the pot to check on them, resulting in burnt vegetables. He informed his wife not to worry about the cooperation with Quanxi Industries anymore, as the boss of the company happened to be one of his classmates and close friends. The next day, Su Heiko was in the office on a call, asking the person on the other end to keep an eye on something and inform him of any changes. After hanging up, he started laughing and informed Su Yihan that it was related to Su Yingsha's attempt to make him laugh to death. Su Yihan asked what was so amusing, and Su Haiqiao revealed that Su Yingxia had asked her husband, whom he referred to as Trash, to drive her to Quanxi Industries. Su Yihan joined in the laughter, remarking that it seemed Su Yingxia had already given up and was simply waiting to be expelled from the family. During their conversation, Su Yihan remembered something and asked what they would do if Su Yingxia actually managed to secure the deal with the company. Su Haiqiao assured her that he had another plan in place to force Su Yingxia out of the Su family, as long as everyone else supported him when the time came. Su Yihan expressed her full support, stating that accepting Han Sanchen into the family had already caused them to lose face, so cutting ties with Su Yingxia and her family would be beneficial. Meanwhile, Su Yingxia was outside Quanxi Industries with her husband, who dropped her off on his electric scooter. He reassured her that with her abilities, she would be able to secure cooperation from Quanxi Industries. Su Yingxia entered the building and headed straight to the receptionist's desk, but before she could introduce herself, the receptionist already knew her name. The receptionist happily pointed her in the right direction, informing her that Manager Zhang had been eagerly awaiting her arrival. To Su Yingxia's surprise, as she reached Manager Zhang's office, all the workers laid down a red carpet and warmly welcomed her, humbly acknowledging her visit for cooperation and negotiation. Once again, Su Yingxia was left dumbfounded by the unexpected turn of events. Manager Zhang personally welcomed her and introduced himself as the general manager responsible for the development of the new district, including negotiations with the Su family's company. Manager Zhang asked if Su Yingxia was ready to sign the paperwork immediately if there were no issues, leaving Su Yingxia stunned by the seemingly unbelievable offer. Su Yingxia was left speechless, unsure of what to say. Manager Zhang noticed her hesitation and asked if she had any questions. Still unsure of how to respond, Su Yingxia contemplated the situation. Manager Zhang reassured her, explaining that the boss often engaged in social events and rarely came to the office. He urged Su Yingxia to let him know if she had any concerns. Finally, Su Yingxia mustered the courage to express her doubts, suggesting that the manager might be joking. Manager Zhang firmly assured her that he wasn't joking, emphasizing the importance of the matter. He mentioned that they had done their research and had confidence in her abilities. Extending his hand for a handshake, he asked Su Yingxia not to disappoint them. Su Yingxia accepted the handshake, promising to live up to their expectations. Meanwhile, Han Sanchen received a text message from Manager Zhang, informing him that the contract was finalized. As Su Yingxia approached him, he asked if she was already done. Excitedly, she informed him that she had secured the contract. Overjoyed, she suggested they celebrate that night. However, their plans were interrupted when Su Yingxia received an urgent message about a meeting. She quickly made her way to the conference room, where people started whispering. Su Haiqiao remarked about not forgetting what they had discussed the previous day. Confidently, Su Yingxia reminded him that she hoped he hadn't forgotten either. Su Haiqiao expressed disbelief that she had managed to negotiate a contract with Quanxi Industries and accused her of faking the contract. Su Yingxia asserted that she wasn't as foolish as he thought and that Madame Su was aware of the authenticity of the contract. She demanded that Su Haiqiao fulfill his promise. Madame Su questioned Su Haiqiao's opinion on the matter, and he claimed that Su Yingxia had merely gotten lucky and hadn't put in any effort. Madame Su bluntly insisted that he keep his promise. Su Haiqiao reluctantly bowed and presented Su Yingxia with tea, which she ignored. Su Yingxia asked if there was anything else Madame Su needed and if she should return home to prepare materials for the next day. Madame Su concluded the meeting, instructing everyone to prepare for the upcoming negotiations with Manager Zhang. Su Yingxia left immediately, followed by others except for Su Haiqiao, who remained furious and shattered the teacup in anger, vowing to get back at Su Yingxia soon. At home, Su Yingxia, her husband, and her parents rejoiced over her achievement. Su Yingxia's mother proudly acknowledged that her daughter's success was a testament to her hard work and determination. Han Sanchen affirmed that Su Yingxia had done everything within her power to secure the contract, emphasizing that it wasn't just a stroke of luck. Su Yingxia's mother acknowledged that it was Su Yingxia's accomplishment and that it didn't concern Han Sanchen. However, their joy was short-lived when Su Yingxia received a call from Madame Su, informing her that she had been replaced by Su Haiqiao for the Quanxi Industries contract. Madame Su was at her home when she called Su Yingxia and suggested that Su Haiqiao take over the project while she took a break for a few days. Madame Su explained that she believed Su Yingxia's rise to power in the company would result in their family's assets falling into the hands of the outcasts, referring to Han Sanchen. Su Heicho assured her that he was satisfied with the decision and clarified that he wasn't trying to take credit for Su Yingsha's accomplishments. He stated that it was for the future of the family. Madame Su cautioned him against trying to deceive her again and warned that even pigs couldn't eat tea cakes. Su Heicho pledged to work diligently and respectfully bowed. Madame Su informed him that she planned on resting and instructed him to prepare for the next day's meeting. At Su Yingsha's house, her mother expressed anger that Su Yingsha, who had worked so hard to secure the contract, was replaced by someone else. She urged Su Yingsha's father to talk to Madame Su and convince her to change her decision. However, Su Yingsha's father explained that it was Madame Su's decision, and he couldn't influence her choice. In her room, Su Yingsha appeared dejected, but her husband approached her, urging her not to cry and assuring her that no one could replace her for the job. Later that night, Han Sanchen called Manager Zhang to inform him of a change or replacement in personnel for the next day's meeting. The following day, Su Heicho dressed up and waited in the lobby. When Manager Zhang arrived with his subordinates, Su Heicho rushed over to welcome him, introduced himself, and extended his hand for a handshake. However, Manager Zhang ignored the gesture and inquired about Su Yingsha. Su Heicho lied, claiming that Su Yingsha was ill and that he was responsible for the cooperation with Manager Zhang's company. Upon hearing this, Manager Zhang immediately left, stating that they should discuss the negotiation only when Su Yingsha or no one else was in charge. Su Heicho was shocked by the outcome and quickly asserted that he was better at business than Su Yingsha and that their company's cooperation wouldn't be affected. However, Manager Zhang dismissed him, expressing disappointment in the insincerity of the Su family and implying they had other options for cooperation. When Madame Su learned about the interaction between Manager Zhang and Su Heicho, she confronted Su Heicho about his remarks that made Manager Zhang reconsider their cooperation. Su Heicho hastily denied saying anything offensive and tried to justify his actions by stating that Su Yingsha was absent. However, Madame Su questioned whether Su Heicho was aware of Han Sanchen's authority and whether he dared to breach their agreement. Madame Su made it clear that if the negotiation failed due to Su Heicho's actions, he would face the consequences. Meanwhile, Su Yingsha was called by Su Heicho, who urgently asked her to come to the company. Han Sanchen replied that Su Yingsha was sick and refused to pass the phone to her. Su Heicho's anger grew, and he threw his phone on the ground. Shortly after, he arrived at Han Sanchen's location and attempted to punch him, but was evaded and retaliated with a kick that sent Su Heicho flying. Just as Su Yingsha entered, she questioned what had happened, and Han Sanchen explained that Su Heicho had been there. Su Heicho got up and asked if Han Sanchen knew who had made the decision to replace him. Han Sanchen declared that he had nothing to say to Su Heicho and clarified that it was Madame Su's decision. He suggested that if there were any issues, they should be resolved by Madame Su herself. Su Heicho was filled with rage as he realized he had been humiliated and chased out. Su Yingsha questioned what had happened, and Han Sanchen explained that Quanxi Industries had decided to put her in charge, stating that they would only work with her and that Su Heicho had been desperate enough to come and beg her. Su Yingsha mentioned that she had heard her husband say that Madame Su might have to come herself to resolve the issue, but she doubted her grandmother would actually do so. Han Sanchen smiled and assured her that Madame Su would come. Later that night, Su Yingsha's mother confronted Han Sanchen angrily, accusing him of wanting them to live a miserable life and suggesting that he saw their situation as a fairy tale. Su Yingsha defended her husband and asked her mother to stop yelling at him, explaining that he acted in her best interest. Her mother became even more upset with her daughter's response, and Su Yingsha took her husband's hand and retreated to their room. Han Sanchen smiled and thanked his wife for standing up for him, even though he was accustomed to his mother-in-law's behavior. Su Yingsha wondered how he could still smile despite the circumstances. She then questioned why he hadn't revealed the secret that he had been the one to secure the contract for her behind the scenes. She expressed her frustration that he had been humiliated for no reason. Han Sanchen replied that his wife had endured much more than him, so he didn't have the right to complain. Su Yingsha became emotional upon hearing his words, and Han Sanchen suggested they go to bed. The next morning, Su Yingsha woke up before Han Sanchen and nudged him awake. They went for a jog together, and she told him not to follow her from a distance. Han Sanchen was surprised that she knew he had always followed her during their morning jogs. As they reached a certain area of the city with impressive buildings, Han Sanchen expressed his interest in one of them. Su Yingsha informed him that the place was quite expensive and a symbol of prosperity. She mentioned that her grandmother had always talked about wanting to own a building like that. This led Su Yingxia to ask if her grandmother would come. Han Sanchen approached manager Zhang and instructed him to send someone to the Uniting Mountains villa and purchase it. Manager Zhang replied that the family's funds could only be used for company development. However, Han Sanchen handed him a credit card in his name, indicating that he was personally responsible for the cooperation between Fenkin Company and Manager Zhang's company. Manager Zhang confirmed that he was indeed the one in charge and mentioned that he had been friends with Qin Lin, the chairman, for many years. Han Sanchen then hinted that the chairman was merely a figurehead, making Manager Zhang wonder if Han Sanchen was the true power behind the scenes. Han Sanchen revealed that he had established his own company at the age of 12 as a way to test his abilities. He explained that Fenkin was named after the vertical stroke on top of the Han character of the Han family. Representing the Han family, Han Sanchen expressed his desire to purchase the villa and fulfill his wife's wish to jog in the mountainous area. Manager Zhang reassured him, promising to keep the secret of Fenkin Company and suggesting that Han Sanchen could leave the villa if needed. This made Han Sanchen contemplate that if his wife wanted the whole world, he would find a way to give it to her. Madame Su climbed the stairs to check on Su Yingxia, who she had heard was sick. She questioned why the elevator wasn't working and expressed her frustration at having to climb the stairs. Su Yingxia's father asked why she hadn't informed him earlier so he could have picked her up downstairs. Madame Su inquired about Yingxia's whereabouts, and Yingxia's mother directed her to Yingxia's room, explaining that she didn't want to infect Madame Su with the illness. However, Han Sanchen appeared with a cup of coffee and informed Madame Su that Yingxia wasn't actually sick. This statement caught Madame Su's attention, and she demanded an explanation from Han Sanchen. Han Sanchen praised Madame Su for her wisdom and clarified that Yingxia had won the cooperation with Quanxi Industries, making her the suitable person to lead the project. He explained that Su Haiqiu's role was to replace the person in charge, and Madame Su had misunderstood the situation. Han Sanchen emphasized that only Yingxia could handle the cooperation effectively. Madame Su threatened to sabotage the cooperation out of anger. But Han Sanchen assured her that he knew she wouldn't do anything that would harm the Su family's interests. He asked Madame Su to allow him to take care of Yingxia and apologized if his words had upset her, considering the well-being of the Su family. Madame Su was left feeling conflicted, contemplating whether she could claim the Su family as her own or if it belonged to Yingxia. At that moment, Han Sanchen's phone rang. He checked the call and saw it was from Yingxia. He answered the call, and Yingxia informed him that she had just finished discussing the cooperation with Zhang Liang. Zhang Liang had agreed to officially restart the cooperation with the Su family on the following Monday. Han Sanchen shared the news with Madame Su, who expressed her gratitude and invited Yingxia for a celebratory dinner at her house over the weekend. Yingxia was thankful, and as Madame Su was about to leave, she reminded Han Sanchen that his idea had led to this outcome and advised him to refrain from coveting the Su family's property. Han Sanchen assured her that he had no interest in their assets. On Sunday, at the Su family villa garden, they gathered to discuss the cooperation with Quanxi Industries, which had made significant contributions to Yingxia's success. Madame Su informed Yingxia that she would be responsible for the West City project, which involved cooperating with Quanxi. Madame Su also cautioned Yingxia to be cautious of Han Sanchen, as he belonged to an external family. She warned Yingxia to consider the Su family's property carefully and to always remain cautious. Yingxia, however, believed that Han Sanchen, whom Madame Su was criticizing, was the one who had helped her secure the cooperation. She decided to trust her own judgment. Yingxia's father arrived and informed Madame Su that the auction for selling the mountain villa had concluded. Madame Su was curious to know who had purchased it and asked for the transaction price. Yingxia's father revealed that it had been sold for 100 million. Madame Su was astonished by the high price. Han Sanchen playfully teased Yingxia about the villa she had been interested in, jokingly suggesting that someone else had bought it. Yingxia wondered who would spend such a large sum of money on a residence. Han Sanchen responded that perhaps the buyer considered it pocket change, but Yingxia speculated if the purchase was made for a beautiful and remarkable lady. Han Sanchen playfully stated that Yingxia was the most beautiful, causing Yingxia to mention that she had already been given to him and he didn't need to offer a bride price again. Yingxia noticed that Han Sanchen had been wearing the same suit for a while and suggested they go shopping together that afternoon. Han Sanchen agreed and offered to pay for whatever Yingxia wanted to buy. they decided to enjoy their time together, with Han Sanchen offering to carry as many shopping bags as Yingxia desired. Yingxia expressed her gratitude for Han Sanchen's support and felt that he deserved to be rewarded. Su Yingxia met Ling Yao after a long time of not seeing each other. They greeted each other warmly, but when Ling Yao mentioned Han Sanchen, she questioned why Yingxia had brought her husband along. Ling Yao commented on Han Sanchen's lack of accomplishments, mentioning that he had been unemployed for 3 years and still drove a humble motorcycle instead of owning a car. Ling Yao implied that Han Sanchen wasn't worthy of Yingxia's kindness and questioned what allure Yingxia had used to capture his attention. Yingxia interrupted Ling Yao, urging her to stop making such comments and clarifying that she was trying her best, even though she hadn't fully accepted Han Sanchen. Ling Yao insisted that as her best friend, she had an obligation to check on Han Sanchen. However, they agreed that shopping should be their main focus for the day. As they arrived at the shopping mall, Ling Yao couldn't help but marvel at Yingxia's beauty, realizing that no man could resist her. Ling Yao believed that Yingxia would eventually uncover Han Sanchen's true identity. Inside the mall, Ling Yao asked Han Sanchen to give his opinion on a dress she was trying on. Instead of responding, Han Sanchen looked away, causing Ling Yao to draw him closer and make him look at her. Only then did Han Sanchen provide a compliment on her dress, and Ling Yao released him. Ling Yao tried on other dresses, and Han Sanchen commented on each one. However, when Yingxia tried on a dress and asked for Han Sanchen's opinion, he happily praised its fit, mentioning how it accentuated her figure. This angered Ling Yao, as she felt Han Sanchen was completely indifferent to her. She wondered what could have caused this change in him. After Yingxia chose a dress, they proceeded to the checkout counter to pay for it. While they were discussing, another couple entered and snatched the dress that Yingxia had picked earlier. Yingxia confronted the woman and asked why she took her dress, and Ling Yao supported her by stating that Yingxia had tried the dress on first. The woman, looking down on Yingxia, belittled her and poor people in general, stating that they should wear cheap and shabby clothes instead of trying to buy something nice. Han Sanchen was angered by how his wife was being humiliated. The woman then turned to the saleswoman and asked for her opinion on the matter, whether she should buy Yingxia's dress or not. The saleswoman, sympathizing with Yingxia, recommended other boutiques in the area that offered discounts based on the amount of clothing purchased. The woman's husband agreed to the suggestion as there were different categories of guests based on their purchasing power. In response, Han Sanchen declared that he would buy all the clothes in the store. The room fell silent as Han Sanchen confidently declared that he would purchase all the clothes in the store, including those chosen by the couple and his wife. He reached for his breast pocket to retrieve his card, only to realize that he had given it to Zhang Liang for the purpose of purchasing the villa and hadn't received it back yet. Han Sanchen requested permission to make a call to the person holding his bank card, but the couple thought he was being presumptuous or attempting to deceive them by claiming he had forgotten his wallet. The saleswoman advised Han Sanchen not to disrupt the store's business if he had no intention of buying the clothes. Ling Yao, wanting to spare herself from humiliation, urged Yingxia to let them leave. However, Yingxia defended Han Sanchen, assuring Ling Yao that he wasn't the type to boast for the sake of respect. Yingxia approached Han Sanchen and convinced him not to make the call, stating that it was enough. Han Sanchen reassured her that the call would only take a moment of his time. After a while, Zhang Liang appeared in the store. The saleswoman, thinking he had come to shop, welcomed him, but he didn't respond. She asked if he needed assistance, but Zhang Liang walked directly to where Han Sanchen stood and handed him the card, bowing in respect and apologizing for the delay. Everyone was astonished, especially the husband of the woman who had underestimated Han Sanchen before. He wore a puzzled expression, wondering who Han Sanchen really was. Once Han Sanchen received the card, he instructed them to proceed with the checkout. His wife was left speechless, unable to find the words to express her astonishment. As they reached the payment counter, Han Sanchen was asked to enter his password. However, he told Yingxia to do it instead. Initially hesitant, Yingxia eventually entered the password, and the transaction was successful. The total cost of the items they bought amounted to 400,000 yuan. Ling Yao, still in shock, asked Yingxia how she knew the password. Yingxia revealed that it was their wedding anniversary date, leaving Ling Yao wondering why Yingxia had invited her to shop when she didn't have a boyfriend, let alone a husband. Ling Yao secretly hoped for a boyfriend who could effortlessly spend 400,000 yuan. Meanwhile, realizing their embarrassment, the couple seized the opportunity to escape from the shopping mall. The woman questioned her husband if they should simply forget what had happened, suggesting they could afford the amount spent. However, her husband called her foolish for not realizing that the person with the card, Zhang Liang, was the same person who had spent 100 million yuan on the mountainside villa. He was afraid to uncover Han Sanqin's true identity. Han Sanqin approached the shopping mall manager and expressed his dissatisfaction with the subpar performance of some of the employees, advising them to address the issue promptly for the sake of the business. As he departed, the manager promptly fired the saleswoman. Later that night, as Yingxia was at home, she received a message notification on her phone. Curious, she checked it and discovered that Ling Yao had sent her a voice message. Just as Han Sanqin arrived, the message began with Ling Yao confessing her love. Han Sanqin approached his wife's side to listen to what Ling Yao had sent. Perplexed, his wife wondered what was happening and why Ling Yao had sent such a message. She also noticed a video attached to the message, showing a man playing the piano, leaving her trying to figure out his identity. Yingxia couldn't help but wonder if the man in the piano video was the person Ling Yao had her eyes on. The man's piano skills were impressive, and his face seemed familiar to Yingxia. Meanwhile, Han Sanqin silently said to himself that he was the one in the video, recalling the events that transpired in the afternoon after they left the clothing shop. Ling Yao had suggested that Yingxia and she take a trip to the bathroom, instructing Han Sanqin to wait for them in the shopping square. As Han Sanqin waited, he noticed a piano nearby and thought that it wouldn't be too bad to play it. It had been a long time since he last played the piano, back when he was just a child seeking solace from the hardships he faced in his family. Han Sanqin had endured bullying from his older brother and had often felt rejected by his own family. The piano became his refuge during those difficult times, and he would spend endless hours playing it, pouring his emotions into the music. As he approached the piano, he felt a sense of pity for it. He wondered if he had lost his touch but decided to give it a try. Unbeknownst to Han Sanqin, Ling Yao had recorded a video of him playing the piano. There were others who genuinely enjoyed his performance, and applause filled the air when he finished. People praised him for his exceptional piano skills, some even admiring his appearance and asking for his contact information. However, instead of responding, Han Sanqin swiftly ran away, evading those who tried to stop him. It took him a while to shake off the persistent admirers. When Han Sanqin finally reached the spot where Ling Yao was waiting, he asked why they weren't in the bathroom together with Yingxia. Ling Yao curtly told him to keep quiet and stop bothering her. She was preoccupied with thoughts of the person who had played the piano, unaware that it was Han Sanqin himself. Reflecting on the situation, Han Sanqin realized that Ling Yao's behavior had been somewhat peculiar. It turned out that he was the person who had played the piano, and as his name was mentioned, he turned his head to see his wife approaching him with a bag in hand. She informed him that she had bought it for him as a gift and handed it over. Han Sanqin was genuinely surprised and grateful as he accepted the present from her. After receiving the gift from his wife, Han Sanqin checked it out and discovered a new shirt inside. Yingxia explained that she bought it because she thought his old one was worn out. She asked if it would fit him, unsure about the size she chose. Han Sanqin was delighted and expressed his happiness by saying he would try the shirt on immediately. Turning away from Yingxia, he proceeded to button up the shirt, while his wife pondered his appearance. Curious, Yingxia asked Han Sanqin if he knew how to play the piano, doubting whether he was the person in the piano video. Han Sanqin pretended not to understand her question, playfully suggesting she was teasing him. However, his wife clarified that she wasn't teasing him and persisted in her inquiry. Han Sanqin finished dressing and turned around to face her, asking for her opinion on how he looked in the new shirt. His wife reassured him that it fit him perfectly. Appreciating her choice, Han Sanqin complimented her eye for selecting the shirt. As they prepared to go to bed, his wife mentioned having work the following day. Meanwhile, Ling Yao was captivated by the photo of the man who played the piano and couldn't stop admiring it. The more she looked at it, the more handsome he appeared in her eyes. The next day, during lunch break in Su Yingxia's office, she noticed Ling Yao smiling to herself and inquired about the reason. Ling Yao showed her the video of the man playing the piano, and Yingxia cautioned her not to get carried away with her admiration, as it was only a shot of the man's back. Ling Yao insisted that Yingxia wouldn't understand unless she had witnessed it in person. She highlighted the man's exceptional performance and impressive stature in the video. Yingxia encouraged Ling Yao to reconsider and suggested that if she took a closer look at the video and thought about it, she might realize that the person resembled Han Sanqin. Ling Yao immediately dismissed the idea, believing it to be impossible. She described the man she envisioned as coming from a wealthy family, attending a prestigious school, and owning luxurious properties and a sports car, nothing like Han Sanchin, who rode around on his humble electric scooter. Ling Yao tried to paint a vivid picture, urging Yingxia to imagine it as well, which gets messy soon enough. As Han Sanchin arrived at a building and parked his scooter, he overheard some guys mocking him for bringing a scooter to buy a car, assuming he intended to sell it. However, their expressions changed when they saw him entering the building. They hastily instructed a junior colleague to recommend a car to him. The colleague questioned their choice, aware that Han Sanchin likely wouldn't make a purchase. Others speculated that he was merely there to browse without any intention to buy. Despite the possibility that Han Sanchin might overhear their conversation, they remained unconcerned. Their demeanor shifted drastically when they witnessed Han Sanchin selecting the latest model worth over 1,000,000 yuan. They approached him, warning him not to touch the car if he wasn't going to buy it, believing he couldn't even afford the paint if he accidentally damaged it. In response, Han Sanchin turned to face them, holding up his bank card and confidently stating that he wanted to purchase the car in full. The attendants were shocked, quickly showing their respect and offering assistance. They asked if he needed tea, specifically Longjing tea or Chinese tea. Han Sanchin commanded one of them to retrieve the card, and the attendant eagerly complied, hurrying to complete the task. Other attendants offered him a seat and tea. Amidst the commotion, the same young cafe owner observed Han Sanchin with the car and was surprised. Approaching him, the young man expressed that he already knew Han Sanchin wasn't an ordinary person and that it seemed like the dragon was ready to soar again. However, Han Sanchin interrupted him with a question, suggesting that the man he referred to wasn't the special one. Han Sanchin addressed the young cafe owner as boss, implying that he himself was the special one. As Han Sanchin and the boss laughed together, the cafe owner chimed in, remarking that it was difficult to determine who was the special one, considering everyone's unique circumstances. Han Sanchin, wanting to impress his wife, asked the boss for his opinion on the shirt. The boss complimented Han Sanchin, saying that the shirt looked excellent on him. Han Sanchin felt a sense of satisfaction that his wife had chosen the shirt for him. However, the boss, feeling slightly dejected, decided to show off his own shirt, adorned with a love symbol sewn by his wife. Both men shared a laugh, but their amusement was cut short when the cafe owner's wife intervened, smacking the boss on the head with a serving tray and urging him to return to work. The boss hurriedly obeyed, and the wife jokingly scolded both Han Sanchin and her husband for behaving like old men. She then offered Han Sanchin a refill, which he gladly accepted. Complimenting his shirt, she remarked that Han Sanchin's wife had excellent taste in clothing, a sentiment Han Sanchin agreed with. Later, Han Sanchin was seen at Su's company building, waiting to pick up his wife. Su Yingxia was shocked and surprised to see a brand new car. Han Sanchin proudly revealed that he had purchased the car with his own money. Su Heikyo emerged from the building, noticing the new car and commenting on its model. He marveled at Su Yingxia's rapid financial progress as a manager, unaware that Han Sanchin was the owner of the car. Su Yingxia attempted to explain, but Su Heikyo interrupted her, warning her to be careful and not let her secret slip. Su Yingxia's parents, elated and assuming that their daughter had bought the car, expressed their joy. They interrupted Su Yingxia's attempts to clarify, insisting that they already knew she was trying to present herself well. Su Yingxia's mother took the car keys from Han Sanchin, stating that she would inspect the car. Concerned, she voiced her opinion that the car was too good for Han Sanchin and expressed suspicions that he might use it to attract other women. She believed that even a minor scratch on the car would be beyond Han Sanchin's means to repair. Su Yingxia tried to intervene, but her mother had already reached the car, declaring that she would take it while Su Yingxia could use their Toyota, as it was sufficient for her work commute. Han Sanchin halted her and told her not to worry, assuring her that he would find a solution so he can deal with the problem. The next day, the young man from the cafe spotted Han Sanchin with the Toyota car as he bid his wife farewell and watched her enter the company building. Han Sanchin was seen at the car dealership, where he was warmly welcomed by the attendants. One of them asked if he wanted to reclaim his electric scooter, which they had kept in good condition for him. However, Han Sanchin revealed that he wasn't there for the scooter. He expressed his desire to purchase another car of the same model, specifically one with straight outdoors. The attendants were astonished upon hearing this, wondering if the commission for the new car would be even higher. Yingxia informed Han Sanchin that her mother was unlikely to return the car, prompting him to explain the situation. He quickly scrambled to come up with a lie to deceive her mother. Han Sanchin concocted a story, claiming that the car he had purchased the previous day came as part of a buy one get one free offer. He asked Yingxia if she could believe such a tale. However, Yingxia reasoned that her mother would see through the lie and expressed disbelief, accusing Han Sanchen of taking her for a fool. Han Sanchen predicted her mother's response, imagining her questioning whether he thought she would believe such nonsense. In response, Han Sanchen said he would apologize and admit that he accidentally bought another car. Yingxia anticipated her mother's next comment, suggesting that she would remark on Han Sanchen's wealth. She assured Han Sanchen that she didn't care about his financial status and urged him to be truthful since they were married and there was no need for secrets. However, Yingxia also advised Han Sanchen not to inform her mother about the additional car, as it would be difficult to explain, and she might be mistaken as the one who spent more money. Han Sanchen agreed to keep it a secret. Later that night at Han Sanchen's residence, Yingxia received a call from Ling Yao. Ling Yao shared that she had rewatched the video of the mysterious godly gentleman multiple times in the past few days. Each time she watched it, the man appeared even more handsome. She couldn't help but admire his piano skills and his attractive physique, emphasizing his broad shoulders and slim waist. Ling Yao expressed frustration over the fact that no one had a video or photo of the man's face. She believed the godly gentleman must be the most handsome man in the city. Yingxia listened to Ling Yao's remarks during the phone call. As Han Sanchen changed the light bulb, he unintentionally eavesdropped on Yingxia's conversation with Ling Yao. The phone was on loudspeaker, allowing him to vividly hear Ling Yao's words. Ling Yao excitedly shared her fantasy of being proposed to by the godly gentleman in a luxurious restaurant with crystal chandeliers, envisioning a romantic and memorable scene. Yingxia, after patiently listening to her friend's musings, responded that only a man of such caliber deserved Ling Yao as her one and only. She agreed that the idea of the fantasy restaurant was appealing. However, Han Sanchen was surprised when he heard Ling Yao's remark about her husband, noting his lack of expression. The following morning, Han Sanchen and Yingxia got married at the Pearl Tower, also known as the UFO Tower, a renowned landmark in the beautiful city of Yunqing. At the top of the tower sat the most famous luxurious Western restaurant in Yunqing, offering panoramic views of the city through its floor-to-ceiling windows. Dining at the restaurant required a reservation made at least a week in advance, and it was known to be quite expensive. As Han Sanchen walked into the restaurant, an attendant approached him, offering assistance. Han Sanchen raised his bank card, indicating that he wanted to reserve the entire restaurant for the 22nd of that month, emphasizing that money was not an issue. News of someone reserving the entire restaurant on top of the UFO tower began to spread. While some considered it normal and unsurprising, others expressed envy and speculated about the occasion. In Sue's building materials break room, two women discussed the rumors, mentioning that serving at the restaurant alone cost hundreds of thousands. They recalled a similar reservation made a few years ago for a proposal, which had caused a stir among women. One of the women overheard that the new reservation was made for the 22nd, suggesting it might be the wedding anniversary of someone in her office. They cautioned Yi Han not to speak too loudly, as they didn't want Yingxia to overhear and feel bad. As Yi Han continued her talk, expressing her opinion without holding back, she remarked that it wasn't her fault that Yingxia married a poor man, giving her the freedom to discuss the matter openly. While Yi Han continued speaking, they noticed Yingxia walking past them. Yi Han persisted in her conversation, mentioning that she had already rented the closest and highest story building with the best view. She confidently stated that when the time came, they would see who was truly rich. Yingxia overheard everything Yi Han said but chose not to reply. Instead, she sipped her tea, finding everything rather mundane. On the day of the reservation, Ling Yao dragged Yingxia along, urging her to follow without revealing the destination. Curious, Yingxia asked where they were going, but Ling Yao assured her she would find out soon enough. Eventually, they arrived at the UFO tower, which surprised Yingxia. However, upon entering, they were warmly greeted by the attendant, who even addressed them by their names. Yingxia questioned Ling Yao about the purpose of their visit, assuming it was merely for fun since the restaurant was reserved that day. Ling Yao informed her that they were invited by someone and told her to wait and see. Yingxia recalled a previous conversation where Ling Yao had mentioned wanting to get a new dress. She noticed Ling Yao's attire and wondered if it was the new dress she had acquired. Ling Yao explained that she had originally planned to wear the dress as the bridesmaid at her own wedding, but never had the chance due to Yingxia's husband's reluctance to give her a proper wedding. They entered the elevator, but to their surprise, the journey to the top of the UFO tower was not yet complete. Curious about the tower's height, Yingxia inquired about the number of floors, and Ling Yao looked up at the meter, revealing that there were 49 floors to ascend. Finally, they reached the 49th floor, where the Crystal Restaurant was located. As they entered, confusion enveloped them as they struggled to comprehend the scene before their eyes. They were astonished to see the same young man who had previously played the piano in the restaurant. Overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of events, they stood frozen in place. Su Yingxia was stunned to discover that it was Han Sanchen playing the piano. He stood up as soon as he spotted his wife. Lin Yao, equally shocked and regretful, realized that she had been mistaken all along, treating Han Sanchen poorly and underestimating his talents. It turned out that he was the piano-playing prince she had fallen for, unbeknownst to her. Su Yingxia confronted her husband, recalling that he had previously claimed to not know how to play the piano. She questioned if he had lied to her. Han Sanchen gently held her face, admitting that he had allowed her to suffer for far too long over the past 3 years. He promised that from that moment on, he would ensure that no one would bully his wife. Overwhelmed with emotions, Su Yingxia burst into tears, expressing how uncomfortable she felt knowing that people had been calling her husband worthless behind his back. She clung to him, finding solace in his embrace. At the Yunqing Commercial Center, people gathered outside the building, glancing at the screen showing pedals. Some engaged in discussions about a masculine man who appeared to be searching for an equally strong wife to marry. A woman nearby seemed eager to sign up for such an opportunity. In a hotel room, Yan pondered who could have reserved the restaurant. She entertained the thought of Han Sanchen and his wife Yingxia, but refrained from acknowledging her own musings. The next day at the office, Yingxia's co-workers noticed her newfound happiness and speculated that she had compared her wedding anniversary to others, realizing the stark difference and understanding that it was nobody's fault but her own for marrying a seemingly worthless husband. As Yingxia entered the office, she encountered Yi Han, who still wondered if the woman she imagined with Han Sanchen at the restaurant was indeed Yingxia. Yingxia approached Yi Han and with a flick of her hand tossed a file towards her, instructing her to go to the west side of the city for an inspection. Yingxia informed her that Yi Han should return and report to her once she was finished. Yi Han couldn't help but express how embarrassing the incident at the restaurant had been for the Su family, accusing Yingxia of having the audacity to boss her around. In response, Yingxia humbly apologized to Yi Han, revealing that she was the person at the restaurant. She added that if Yi Han didn't want to go, she would simply ask Madame Su to find her a new assistant, allowing her to go home and rest. Yi Han was taken aback by Yingxia's words. As Yingxia left, she reassured Han Sanchen in her mind that she wouldn't let her family push them around any longer. Yin retaliated, warning Yingxia that if Madame Su found her idling at home, she might face severe consequences. In response, Yingxia calmly stated that going to the construction site was a small task and not tiring, something she did every day. She mentioned how it caused her extreme discomfort, with heat, sore feet, and exhaustion akin to that of a dog. Yi Han, attempting to provoke Yingxia, remarked that if she were to marry into the Han family, Yingxia would have to endure even more hardships. Undeterred, Yingxia challenged Yi Han, inviting her to feel free to come and experience what she had just described. At the Magic City nightclub, a group of men gathered in the afternoon of the 23rd. They engaged in a conversation about the Crystal Restaurant that had been recently purchased, speculating that their wives would have been disappointed to have missed such an extravagant establishment. One of the men noticed Han Sanchen and questioned why he was at the club before it even opened. Han Sanchen explained that he was looking for Lin Yang because his wife had given him a shirt, and he wanted to find Lin Yang to exchange it for shirts of the same style. The men inquired about his identity, as their boss held a significant position in the Cloud City zone. Han Sanchen casually informed them to let their boss know that he was already there and mentioned his name. They recognized him as the Su's waste son-in-law and marveled at how someone who lived off others could afford to drive an Audi. One of the men remarked that Han Sanchen's brothers were far superior to him and questioned how he managed to marry Yingxia. As they departed to meet their boss, they tried to recall if their boss had ever mentioned Han Sanchen's name. Upon reaching their boss, who turned out to be Lin Yang, the owner of the Magic City nightclub and a supporter of Han Sanchen, they relayed the message. Lin Yang rushed to greet Han Sanchen, embracing him tightly before adjusting himself upon Han Sanchen's request. Lin Yang then instructed the men to kneel down and apologize to Han Sanchen, which they promptly did. Han Sanchen then turned to Lin Yang, expressing that he had an important matter to discuss and promised to resolve it with him as soon as possible. Lin Yang led Han Sanchen to his office for a conversation, but Han Sanchen suggested there was no need to bother since he had previously mentioned that someone in the Qingxi project wanted to cause trouble. Han Sanchen proposed a change in personnel in the Cloud City and asked Lin Yang if he had desired control over the area for a long time. Confused by Han Sanchen's seriousness, Lin Yang questioned the sudden change in demeanor. After concluding their discussion, Han Sanchen walked to his car, contemplating the delicious meal his wife would have prepared for him. Meanwhile, Su Haiqiu spotted Han Sanchen and called out to him, but Han Sanchen ignored the call. Su Haiqiu assumed Han Sanchen was intentionally disregarding him and warned that his good days were numbered, teasing a forthcoming surprise for Han Sanchen. Han Sanchen decided to visit a car dealership, contemplating purchasing a new car so that he and his wife could drive together. He hoped that his wife wouldn't be upset with him. However, upon arriving home, instead of the warm welcome he anticipated, he found his wife sitting on the sofa, her head buried in tears. As soon as Han Sanchen noticed his wife crying alone, he rushed to her side, concerned about what had caused her distress. He inquired about the reason behind her tears, and she explained that she had sent Yihan to inspect the Qingxi project, but Yihan had been injured. Curious about the details, Han Sanchen asked how it had happened, and she recounted how a group of people had stormed the construction site demanding money. This led to a confrontation and disrupted the transportation channels for construction materials, causing delays and chaos. Han Sanchen reasoned that the number of people involved indicated that it couldn't have been solely orchestrated by the Su family, suggesting the involvement of a third party in Cloud City. Yingxia also shared the afternoon incident with Yihan before she went to the site. She mentioned how Yihan accused her of embezzling project funds to buy a car, insinuating that it was time for her to change houses as she had changed cars. Han Sanchen playfully imagined the kind of villa that would suit his wife and smiled, but she was surprised by his reaction as the situation was not amusing to her. Furthermore, Haiqiu had informed her that he had discovered her intentions and invited her to negotiate the following day at a club in Yanqing. In another scene, Haiqiu was seen sitting with two ladies at the club when a young man named Cheng Gang approached him. Cheng Gang mentioned that his people had made all the necessary arrangements, as long as Haiqiu assured him that he would get Yingxia by following his instructions. Haiqiu confirmed his assurance and acknowledged that Cheng Gang was interested in Yingxia. Haiqiu had arranged an appointment for her to visit Cheng Gang's house the following day. Cheng Gang questioned Haiqiu's motives for dealing with the Su family secretly, considering Haiqiu's own connections to the family. Haiqiu attempted to explain that Cheng Gang had misunderstood him and that he knew it wouldn't be easy to manipulate the situation. Cheng Gang commented on the prosperity of both Yingxia and her husband, but Haiqiu continued to withhold information, insisting that he had done his best. Haiqiu tried to convince Cheng Gang that he had seen Han Sanchen coming out of Magic City that day, engaged in a conversation and laughing with Lin Yang. The next day, Han Sanchen and his wife drove to a building. His wife expressed uncertainty about whether he could accompany her inside as her assistant. Han Sanchen assured her to trust him, assuring her that he was capable of fulfilling the role. However, his wife pondered whether she had been too trusting of him in the past. Han Sanchen exited the car and opened the door for his wife, receiving a message on his phone indicating that everything he needed was ready. After his wife got out of the car, he encouraged her to let others witness their love as a couple. As Han Sanchen and his wife entered the building, they were surprised to come face to face with Cheng Gang. Cheng Gang asked who Han Sanchen was, and Yingxia responded that he was her husband. This prompted Cheng Gang to make fun of them, while one of the bodyguards suggested teaching Han Sanchen a lesson. However, Cheng Gang dismissed their concerns, stating that he wanted to test if Han Sanchen was truly as impulsive as rumored. Yingxia intervened, informing Cheng Gang that she had come to discuss business with him and not to witness her husband's humiliation. Cheng Gang proposed a deal, saying he would stop if Han Sanchen paid him 1 billion and promised not to trouble the Su family in the future, but rather protect them. Yingxia found it hard to believe Cheng Gang's words, considering the complexity of the situation. She wondered if there was a hidden instigator behind the scenes. Trying to gauge Cheng Gang's sincerity, she approached him and handed over a file. Cheng Gang returned to his seat to examine the file and then commented on a nice room mentioned within. He asked if Yingxia would come with him. Yingxia firmly refused, which angered Cheng Gang, leading him to cancel the discussion. He warned Yingxia that she would regret her decision and released his men to confront Han Sanchen. To their surprise, Han Sanchen easily defeated them, leaving them wondering about his hidden strength and questioning their earlier judgment of him as a waste. Han Sanchen then approached Chang Gang and offered him a chance to explain the matter clearly in order to spare his life. Chang Gang, however, lashed out at Han Sanchen, accusing him of mocking him and asserting his advantage of having more men. In that moment, they heard a voice from behind, and they all turned to see Lin Yang arriving at the scene. Lin Yang stood by Han Sanchen's side, and Chang Gang warned Han Sanchen that he had backup and that killing him would not end well for Han Sanchen. Concerned for Han Sanchen's safety, Yingxia wanted to intervene, but Han Sanchen instructed her to wait in the car, assuring her that he would join her soon and urging her not to worry. He made it clear that neither Chang Gang nor his men would be allowed to harm her. After his wife left, Han Sanchen took a knife from Lin Yang and used it to intimidate Chang Gang, demanding a confession. Chang Gang grew fearful, realizing that Han Sanchen was serious about his threats. Later, Han Sanchen is seen holding the same knife in front of Chang Gang's face, while his men are holding him down on the ground while Sanchen is asking the questions to him about the real culprit behind the whole incident that happened. Chang Gang starts to act like he isn't provoked by the situation even for a bit, so he decides to sway the situation by calling Sanchen out on his bravery. He threatens Sanchen, believing that his men will not let Sanin go out of his place alive if he doesn't finish him off before leaving the location. Han Sanchen realizes that he will only continue to waste time on Chang Gang, so he instructs his men to keep on beating him until he speaks the truth about what he wanted to know from him. While Chang is getting beaten, he doesn't let go of his machoism as he calls out Lin Yang for the fact that he has quite some reputation as a gangmonger. But Lin Yang isn't bothered by the situation even for a bit, knowing Chang is nothing but valueless whining as he doesn't stop his men to beat on him continuously. After getting beaten for a while, Chang finally opens his mouth as he reveals the information regarding the Su family coming to him, and the fact that it is Su Heicho's own idea gets revealed in front of the whole crowd. He also discloses the fact that Heicho wanted him to have a relationship with Su Yingxia despite coming from the same family, and then exposing the matter in Yunqing. When Han Sanchen realizes what was about to happen as Heicho was trying to the best of his abilities to drive Su Yingxia out of her own family, he fires up instantly as he claims that he could let him go for Chengxi project, but he isn't about to let it happen this time since he made the whole issue personal and engaged Yingxia in the whole matter. Now he is ready to make it quite personal with Su Heicho as he fixes upon the matter, concluding the final decision as a death penalty. After making up his mind, Su Yingxia detects that something might be wrong with him as he isn't behaving as his normal self and not even answering any of her questions. Then suddenly, he claims that everything is all right and then decides to move on from the location by starting the car, insisting that the incident has been resolved already. Yingxia couldn't help but wonder how the situation has been resolved so easily, as Chang didn't look like a reasonable person at all, while she was confused about the men appearing behind him all of a sudden. Instead of answering her questions, Han Sanchen insists that she should be telling her grandmother that the situation has been resolved and move on from there, as he is about to take care of the rest. Then the next day in the early morning, everyone is present inside the Su family conference room, and their grandmother is wondering where Yingxia really is as she isn't present inside the room in her seat. Su Heicho claims that he has heard that she hasn't come back at all last night, which makes their grandmother wonder what he is talking about. Heicho claims that he has already investigated that the person who dealt with their family was none other than Chang Gang, and he insists that he has spent a lot of money to get through his path, and asked Yingxia to go to his farmhouse with him. He also points out the fact that she hasn't returned back home as she stayed there overnight. He tries to imply that she has done something like that with some gangsters such as Chang Gang, which starts to concern the rest of the family as they are quite serious about the whole matter. His grandmother also asks the same question, but he seems rather confident in his opinion, which makes her feel like she should be discrediting someone like Su Yingxia from the family if something like that truly happened. None of the family members are truly pleased to hear something out of Heicho's mouth as they start to hate Yingxia, implying that Heicho has spoken after doing his proper research, fearing that the Su family will become Yongqing's joke once again. But suddenly, Yingxia comes out of nowhere claiming that Brother Zhang has asked her to sort some documents which made her take so much time. When her grandmother asks if the situation has been resolved, she happily answers that it is, while Heicho asks her how much it cost her to complete the task in a narrowed mind. She doesn't know how to answer the question as the whole situation was handled by Han Sanchen himself, and at that time, her grandmother ends up asking her about sleeping with Chang Gang directly. Yingxia couldn't help but wonder, feeling flabbergasted by the idea of not knowing how to answer the question. At that time, Lin Yang kicks open the door claiming that he has a gift for the old lady while holding on to someone wearing a bloody duffel bag on his head. The sudden entry of Lin Yang makes Heicho question his bravery to kick open the door of Su family's conference room as he is thinking of causing trouble there. Instead of talking to Heicho, Lin Yang makes his introduction as Lin Yang, claiming that he has solved the issue of Su family while wanting to grab some money on the way, and the other members of the Su family immediately recognize the name of Lin Yang as he is quite reputable in Yunqing when it comes to power. So Yingxia's grandmother starts to react, not knowing how someone like him would try to cause trouble in the house of Su family as they cannot afford it at all. The old lady claims that if he has helped the family in any way, they are ready to do anything in his favor not to let his efforts come in vain, while Lin makes sure that there will be money at the end of the deal. Lin immediately reveals the bruised and beaten face of Chang Gang in front of the audience, threatening him to reveal everything in front of the crowd. Chang Gang then immediately reveals everything about Heicho, while Heicho tries to ignore all the blames given by Chang Gang, knowing that he is about to get trashed in the middle of it. Chang Gang makes it very clear, saying that there was no way he would target the Su family if he wasn't present to make an agreement with him. While Heicho claims that everything that is spoken by Chang Gang is bullshit, she continues to witness the situation unfold as he continues to double down on the fact that he doesn't even know the man. Chang Gang doesn't just stop there, he also reveals the fact that he wanted to attack Su Yingxia, and in the matter of exposing the whole incident in front of the whole of Yunqing City to disgrace the Su family, which will eventually lead to Su Yingxia's abandonment. None of the family members could believe that Heicho could try to do something like that, since Su Yingxia is one of the family members of the Su family. Yingxia herself is quite shocked after hearing the whole incident, and it makes Su Heicho kneel down in front of his grandmother for not knowing anything about it, claiming that he isn't related to any of it. After seeing the whole situation with his own eyes, Heicho's father Shugu Lin calls the matter to be a momentary confusion for Heicho, claiming that she shouldn't be blaming his son too much as he will be educating him for it soon enough. Without listening to any of them, the grandmother then faces Lin, claiming that the whole incident is a private matter of Su family and how grateful she is to him for letting her know about all of it, and the fact that she is ready to pay any amount to him to make it all fair for him as well. After hearing her words, Lin Yang makes Chang Gang wear the black bag once again on his face and starts to leave the room while calling himself a reasonable character, while pointing out the fact that he will be meeting her soon once again. Then the grandmother leaves the decision to Yingxia to make, as Heicho originally wanted to harm her in the first place, which gets her into a dilemma, not knowing how to resolve the situation. She explains that it is for her to make a decision as the head of the family, but the only punishment for Heicho is to not come into the company during this time and stay at home only to reflect on his actions. Heicho insists that he understands that he was wrong and agrees with the fact that he should be reflecting on it, while everyone agrees not to mention the matter again in the future ever again. It seems that everyone in the family is on Heicho and his grandmother's side, making it quite clear that she will never go against his way ever. After noticing the situation, he tries to provoke Yingxia, focusing on the fact that his grandmother is on his side no matter what kind of mistakes he makes, which creates a huge gap between Yingxia and him. Heicho tries to make her understand that she is only being used as a tool in Su family, and the fact that not cooperating with Kanshu Corporation would never let her be eligible to enter the conference room, as she will have to fight with him to save it. On the other hand, Han Sanchen is investigating a shop owner somewhere in the city as he is talking to one of his men on the phone, as he has found out the name is Mo Yang. He thinks that the name is quite familiar, and his man informs him that the man named Mo Yang is none other than the #1 boss in Yunqing, who was the most powerful 5 years ago, as it was the peak time of his life in the city. It is later revealed that back in the day, Mo Yang suddenly disappeared despite being the #1 gangster in Cloud City, as it collapsed overnight in his absence. Nobody has the knowledge of what actually happened behind the scenes, but now it seems that he is running a small shop somewhere in the country along the way. Nobody knows if his wife was the reason why he let everything go out of his grasp, which makes him quite admirable, and there is news about him being in an underground casino which was in Changbin's area. After hearing the news, Han Sanchen decides that he will meet Chang the following night for that reason, as he still has a friendship of 3 years, and there is no way he is about to ignore him. But his advisor claims that it is better not to meddle with Chang, since he has a deep friendship with many big people, which makes it better not to interfere in their business. Han Sanchen makes it quite clear that it isn't his decision to make, and the person behind the phone call is Lin Yang, who is trying his best to calm Sanchin down. As soon as he cancels the call, Su Yingxia enters the car with her angry face, which makes him question if the trouble is truly resolved and the fact if her grandmother truly praised her or not. But the answers coming out of Yingxia's mouth don't seem to faze him, as he was expecting something similar to happen from the beginning, as he promises that he will make her grandmother regret her decision. At the same time, Yingxia is quite curious about Lin Yang helping her, as he is quite an uncanny character to help someone like her, but her husband tries to hide away the situation, saying that he has spent money on Lin Yang to come and help him for his own cause. She couldn't fathom the fact that her husband had spent 100,000 for Lin Yang to come forward in this matter, since it is her whole salary for a year, as she continues to praise him by calling him rich, while he is smiling silently, knowing that his wife will surely faint or die of heart attack if she knew how much he has in his bank account. When Han Sanchin leaves for his new mission at night, Yingxia wonders if he is looking for another woman, as it has been 3 years, but they do not have any connection between them as real husband and wife throughout their marriage. She blames herself for not being qualified to ask him about his private life, remembering how she would sleep with scissors every night for the whole first year of their marriage. Even though Han Sanchin had no intentions of getting close to her, the scissor was always under her pillow, as she didn't trust him a bit, and now it is time to put away for real. She doesn't know how Han Sanchin could resist some beauty like her, even after being in the same room for a long time, doubting if the guy is even interested in her at all. Meanwhile, Han Sanchin is in the casino of Chang with his companion Lin Yang, as he keeps on winning the games quite continuously, while all the women around him continue to discuss him. Lin Yang couldn't help but wonder how he is so courageous that he came to the place without any of his bodyguards, as he is winning so many games at once continuously. Lin worries, wondering if Chang Bin is about to leave him be after finding out, and at that time, Chang Bin is watching them through the CCTV, wondering how he has so much luck behind him. He is about to invite them to the VIP room, as he is interested to see how capable of a person Han Sanchin is, as he is excited to show a trapped couple inside his room his private methods. In the next scene, Chang Bin is seen torturing the tied-up green-haired guy, and he decides to reminisce about his past when he and the guy both were fighting with each other. It seems that the couple that is tied up inside are none other than the cafe owner whom Han Sanchin used to meet while waiting for Yingxia. Chang Bin then slaps the hell out of the tied-up woman because of reacting to her husband's torture, and leaves 2 of his men to torture the woman tied up on the ground. It seems that Chang Bin used to have a violent past with the guy, and as he continues to beat the helpless man in front of him, he makes a promise to be more powerful than what his opponent used to be back in the past. Suddenly, Chang Bin's assistant comes in, saying that Han Sanchin has already shifted into the VIP room according to his instructions, and while he leaves the couple in the hands of his men, he prepares to meet Han Sanchin in the VIP room to have a talk with him. As soon as Chang Bin enters the room, he asks for the identity of Han Sanchin, wondering who the guy is, knowing that he wouldn't be some small fly when Lin Yang himself came to be his bodyguard. Just the moment Han Sanchin introduces himself by his name, Chang Bin realizes that he is the famous person in the town and none other than the son-in-law of the Su family, claiming that his name isn't that pleasing at all to hear. When Han Sanchin agreed to the statement, Chang couldn't help but feel unbothered, asking to know how much benefit Lin Yang took from him to bring him to his casino. While he is busy berating Han Sanchin, he ends up asking him about catching Mo Yang, and it catches Chang kind of off guard as he continues to contemplate the situation. The moment Han Sanchin tries to make a proposal of some amount to rescue Chang, he starts to react badly, thinking that Han Sanchin is trying to provoke him by offering money, as if he truly lacks funding. When Chang brings the topic of Su family into the discussion, Sanchin makes it quite clear that he himself will be enough against him, and the fact that he will not even need the Su family to go against him. The men of Chang prepared to beat down Han Sanchin, while Chang insists that Lin Yang should just listen to him and do as per is instructed by him. But the moment he is about to light up the cigarette after mocking Han Sanchin, one of his men crashes down on the wall, as he has been thrown off badly, on the wall being beaten up, which catches Chang off guard almost instantly. He couldn't help but wonder how all of his men fell in a small amount of time, and the moment he is about to look behind the shoulders, he finds Han Sanchin standing behind him, looking with fired-up eyes. Then Sanchin instantly grabs onto his neck, ordering him to take him to Mo Yang, who is tied up back inside his chamber, while threatening him with a death wish. Chang then threatens Han Sanchin, claiming that his whole family will be ruined for laying his finger on someone like him, but as soon as he utters the name of Su family, Han Sanshin holds him up while the man starts to foam inside his mouth trying to breathe. Chang loses his will to argue back with Sanshin and decides to agree with him, knowing that he will surely lose his life by refusing his command. When all of them enter the chamber, the men of Mo Yang, who is tied up along with his wife, and Sanshin orders Lin Yang to close the door immediately. While Lin Yang follows the order of Sanshin, he starts to beat Chang with all the might inside him, while Mo Yang asks why Sanshin himself came to his rescue, as he is already astonished by the whole incident. When both of them have a chat with each other, Chang tries to act as if he has the authority once again, but gets down by Han Sanshin once again as he pressurizes him not to talk anymore. Mo Yang then decides to get his wife unconscious by slapping the back of her head as he asks for Lin Yang's help to take his wife away to safety, knowing that he still has some unfinished business with Chang. He then gets ready to make his amends, and Chang asks him if he wants to finish him off or not to settle their accounts, stating how big of a chain reaction his death is about to cause them. On the other hand, Lin Yang claims that Chang's death will bring to good for them, but Han Sanshin insists that he will be covering for him, so he should just do whatever his heart wishes him to do. Just the moment Han Sanshin finishes his sentence, Mo Yang decides to work accordingly without even thinking for once and stabs the knife inside Chang Bin's back as he continues to shout. The knife pierces through Chang Bin, and Sanshin asks Lin Yang about the arrival of his subordinates. As soon as he finishes his line, they soon get surrounded by people as countless cars enter the building, breaking down the door as if they are ready for a fight as multiple muscled-up fighters surround the premise. Han Sanshin then curiously asks about the incident happening with Mo Yang, as he gave up his identity and power from being the #1 gangster in Cloud City and went to live an ordinary life like all others in the city. Mo Yang claims that he wanted to fulfill the dreams of his wife, as she wanted to see how beautiful the Cloud City can be, is the only reason he spent 3 years accompanying in the city. As she felt like she was tired of everything and wanted to rest, he had to put down everything he had accomplished to live with her steadily. The only wish for him was to live a happy life with his wife, and he gave up everything in the end as they agreed to it together. Han Sanshin realizes that he wanted to do everything in his power to make his wife happy, but Mo Yang believes that he wasn't able to protect her through the end, as she had to suffer along with him because of his violent past, while Han Sanshin thinks otherwise as he recognizes the man's love. On the other hand, Su Yingxia was quite desperate to know about Han Sanshin's private life, as she barely knew anything behind the scenes. Now she is quite desperate to get close to him, feeling that there is a need for it, and at that moment, Han Sanshin enters the room wearing slippers while Yingxia acts like she is asleep. When Han Sanshin calls out for Yingxia, she doesn't answer, making him feel like she is truly sleeping, so he starts to talk to himself on the matter of Mo Yang sacrificing everything for his wife. He then lies down on the ground discussing how he can be strong and protect his beloved woman with all his might, which buzzes inside the mind of Su Yingxia as she gets butterflies inside her stomach. Then the next morning, Han Sanshin goes on to pick up the uncle, aunt, and their family at the airport, but as soon as they arrive, they start to question him about Zhang Lan and Su Guoyou not coming in person. The aunt adds that Yingxia is now in charge of the project and her frame is quite different now, which is why she sent Han Sanshin to pick them up, making them feel like they aren't taken seriously anymore. When they ask Han Sanshin about taking a taxi to the airport, he claims that he had taken his car to drive to the airport and shows them the car. They instantly get frustrated seeing the luxurious car, guessing whether is it Su Yingxia who bought the car after being promoted to her work, and their son starts to haggle, claiming that he will be the one to drive, berating Han Sanshin that he doesn't have a qualification to drive such a good car. The uncle also presses on the situation, saying that his son should drive the car, calling Han Sanshin incompetent, while the aunt only creates the situation more perplexing for Han Sanshin with their mean comments around him. Then their son posts a picture of him sitting in the car for his friends and then gets on with driving the car in the end, as he is desperate to do so. When they reach the terminal, Han Sanshin is changed back to the driver's seat once again, and the son of the uncle and aunt worries about paying up for some reason. But his mother decides to keep the situation under control by suggesting that they should handle the matter at hand after reaching her sister's house. When they reach the house, Han Sanshin claims that he will have to bring Su Yingxia as she is about to get off to work, so they can enter the house by themselves by going upstairs. The comment made by Han Sanshin gets the uncle mad, as he claims that it is no proper way to greet the guests, but his wife calms him down for some reason, as she has some ulterior motives. When Han Sanchin takes his leave, the uncle questions his wife about her motives for not letting Han Sanchin take their luggage upstairs, to which she claims that she isn't about to leave him at any cost, advising that she is about to handle the matter by herself. When they get greeted by Yingsha's mother, instead of saying anything useful, they begin questioning her about the reason why she left such an expensive car under the care of Han Sanchin. Su Yingsha's mother gets puzzled, and the whole family of the aunt then begins shaming Han Sanchin by calling him incompetent, hiding the fact that it was their son who truly crashed the car's headlight on the street, as it is about to take a lot of money to fix it. Not only that, but also, the son of the aunt and uncle also doubles down on the fact that Han Sanchin is the one who crashed the car, and he should only be driving the cheap scooter. After hearing all these from her sister and her family, Su Yingsha's mother gets furious and prepares to face Han Sanchin when he gets back at home after receiving Su Yingsha from work, while the aunt and her family wait to watch the drama unfold in peace. On the other hand, when Han Sanchin reaches the office of the Su family, he meets some local thugs calling him the waste son-in-law of the Su family. Han Sanchin decides to be calm, but when the thugs continue to bring Su Yingsha into the matter, he warns them and their boss, claiming that they shouldn't be looking for trouble as his patience is limited, which angers the whole gang. All three of them then start to jump on Han Sanchin, but only end up on the street lying down as Han Sanchin mows through, the three of them mourning then for the last time. When the thugs leave the premise, Yingsha comes in asking him about the crashed car with a broken headlight, and Han Sanchin discloses all of the situations that unfolded back when he went to receive her relatives. When she hears that it was her cousin Jiang Sheng who made this massive ruckus, she promises that her mother will be the one punishing him for doing such a thing, and advises Han Sanchin to just wait and watch. But when they reach back home, Su Yingsha notices that her mother and her relatives are all waiting for them on the street already, and as Yingsha is about to speak up, her mother takes away the car's key from Han Sanchin, blaming it all on him, while restricting from driving the car from now on as the repairs are about to be heavy, while Su Yingsha keeps on standing puzzled, wondering what her father and mother are talking about. Yingsha's mother then questions her about finding the car wrecked, while remarking on the fact that she told her not to leave the car to Han Sanchin a long time ago, assuming that there will be consequences. When Yingsha is about to answer back to her mother, she looks right at her relatives and guesses that the relatives of hers must be behind the whole scene, as they are looking like the only ones who can cause the incident. Then Su Yingsha's mother remarks that if she speaks for Han Sanchin ever again, she will have her divorce him, while her cousin and her aunt tried to manipulate her to take the situation on her side. Sensing the problematic situation, Su Yingsha gets prepared to face everyone by telling them the truth in anger. But Han Sanchin holds her hand to calm her down, making her realize that she shouldn't do something like that. Then her mother shouts at Han Sanchin, claiming that Su Yingsha is the one who is supporting their family, so that from now on he doesn't have to pick her up from work in the future. Then she insists to her daughter that she should be inviting her uncle to the dinner, so she doesn't have to go out with Han Sanchin, as she calls him someone irrelevant in her life despite him being her husband, which silences Su Yingsha. After hearing all these, Han Sanchin claims that he has something to do, and he will be busy, so Yingsha should leave with her uncle if she wants. Then Yingsha's uncle remarks that Sanchin should be self-aware of the situation for not showing his face to the party, so he shouldn't be looking for excuses, and just not go there with them. When Yingsha thinks to herself about the situation and her husband sacrificing for her, Han Sanchin insists that they should just go, and he will be busy with his work, so they should just enjoy their night. Then when the aunt and her family is about to attend the party, the son praises her mother for blaming it all on Han Sanchin, who wasn't able to answer anything or refuse them at the first place. Then his mother berates Han Sanchin, once again claiming that Sanchin doesn't belong to the Su family at all, but he should be careful about not crashing the car once again, knowing that she cannot help him once again if that happens and gets found out by everyone, as Han Sanchin isn't present. When her son promises to be careful, the aunt suggests the uncle borrow money from her sister's family, as they are buying luxurious cars, meaning that they must have a lot of money to borrow. Then her husband states that he will make sure that his sister will get him 200,000 from the table dinner, as there is no way he will be able to refuse his plead, while planning not to pay the amount ever again. Then at the dinner table, when everyone drinks up, Yingsha's uncle asks his sister to let him borrow some money, as he is going through a list of difficulties currently. When she asks him about the amount he wants to borrow, he remarks it, saying that he isn't interested in 2,000 but 200,000, which makes her leave her seat, as she wasn't expecting that kind of amount in the first place herself. Then after seeing her reaction, he suggests that they should be talking properly, knowing that the cars in her family cost more than 1 million, while he is only asking for 200,000, which is quite less compared to 1 million. They don't just stop there, they continue to manipulate her to let them have the amount they are wanting to have from her, calling her a rich woman as she is leading the life of one. When the manipulation finishes and wraps up, Su Yingxia's mother agrees to them, saying that she will be lending them the amount they want, which shocks her daughter and husband to the core, as they weren't expecting such an incident to happen. When both of them get up from their seat, the door opens, and someone kicks a person on the door as they are about to reveal themselves. It is revealed that the person who got kicked in the stomach is none other than Su Yingxia's cousin, who is then left flabbergasted on the ground from the attack as a whole local gang shows their face to the family. The mother of Jiang Sheng reacts almost immediately, concerned about her son, asking what happened to him as he was beaten so badly after going into the bathroom. She demands the gang who they are and for the reason they have beaten her son. The man then claims that his son Jiang Sheng wanted to molest his woman, and that is the reason why he beat him in the first place. When his mother asks the question to him, Jiang Sheng only nods and confirms the accusation. And then the woman starts blaming the gangster's woman for wearing revealing clothes and the fact that she is the one who seduced her son in the first place. Then the man remarks that it doesn't matter since Jiang Sheng is a nobody to molest a woman for not being qualified, and punches the aunt violently for clarification. The man then claims that he is truly a reasonable person, insisting on the fact that the person who had molested his woman would have to pay hundreds of thousands, and the only way Jiang Sheng is able to leave the place is by paying up the man. Surprisingly, Jiang Sheng then proceeds to create a tricky plot, claiming that he doesn't have much money but a car that belongs to Han Sanqian. He begs the man to take the car and leave, and at that moment, Su Yingxia remarks the fact, saying that it isn't his car but hers, so there is no way he can have the authority to make that choice. She makes it quite clear that he has to solve the problem himself and not drag her family into the matter. On the other hand, the gangster is already getting greedy after seeing the beauty of Su Yingxia, and he starts to make dirty proposals to her. The man makes it clear that she is in no position to make that claim, as she isn't that qualified to make that decision by touching her cheek. At that moment, Su Yingxia's mother comes in to protect her daughter, claiming that she is the granddaughter of the Su family and the fact that the Su family will not leave him be if he does anything reckless. For some reason, the name of Su family triggers something in the man, and he ends up slapping Yingxia's mother to the ground in anger. The man isn't ready to hear anything, as he doesn't believe that the Su family can be so powerful, while Yingxia claims that he shouldn't be making hectic decisions that can get him to pay for it later in his life. Instead of being feared by Yingxia's claims, the man only makes dirty comments to her and commands his gang to round up the whole room so none of them can get out of the box. His man promises to the gangster that there is no way the lady will be able to escape, while Yingxia's mother requests and begs Yingxia to call her grandmother, hoping that she will be able to help by coming forth with the other elders. Then the father of Yingxia claims otherwise, which makes her mother react to it badly, as she is quite concerned about her daughter's safety. Then Yingxia reveals to her mother that her grandmother isn't something that she thinks of her as, knowing the reality is quite different than expectations. As Yingxia claims that her grandmother's strength is in the Su family, there is no way she is about to offend these gangsters because of Yingxia alone. She knows the only person who can save her now, which shocks her parents at the same time as they shout together asking who, to which Yingxia claims that it is none other than Han Sanqian. As soon as her family hears the fact that Han Sanqian is the man whom she is asking the help from, they are surprised to wonder how she can expect someone useless like Sanqian to help her regarding this matter. Jiang Sheng then claims that Yingxia is only trying to insult him in the process by mentioning the name of Sanqian to solve the problem, as if she doesn't want to help him in the first place. His remarks make Yingxia tell him to shut up, as he was trying to be passionate, while if she hadn't been dragged by him in the first place, she wouldn't bother to care about it at all. She then immediately rings up Han Sanqian asking where he is, and it seems that Han Sanqian is at home enjoying his lunch alone. Yingxia then claims that she needs some help, and just upon hearing it, Han Sanqian instantly heads to solve her problem. But Yingxia's mother advises her to call her grandmother, as she doesn't believe Han Sanqian is someone capable of helping them, but Yingxia makes it quite clear that she believes in him, and she will not be contacting anyone else in that matter. Somewhere else, the man who tried to abuse Yingxia is having drinks and a meal with Lin Yang at his office to celebrate the new promotion of Lin Yang in Cloud City. While Lin Yang continues to have his drink, he reminisces how Han Sanqian is dissatisfied with his performance because of the incident at Chang Bin's casino, wondering what would happen if Mo Yang decided to come back to the world of gangsters once again, as it would wipe out his whole existence from Cloud City. Suddenly, Han Sanshin breaks the door by kicking on it, only to reveal his face to the people inside the room, which surprises Lin Yang as he asks why he is there in the first place. The fat gangster couldn't help but wonder why Lin Yang started calling Sanshin his brother, to which he commands him to shut up. Sanshin then moves on with his question of asking Lin Yang if the fat man is his friend or not, claiming that he is the one who dared to let his woman go with him. Just upon hearing this news, Lin Yang blasts the wine bottle on the man's head without even thinking twice about the consequences, as Han Sanshin is already dissatisfied with his performance. The man couldn't help but wonder about Sanshin's behavior as he lies down on the ground bloodied and asks Lin Yang about his sudden change in behavior. Instead of listening to the man's requests, Lin Yang commands his men to beat the fat man without listening to him, as he decided to play with Sanshin's wife. Han Sanshin then gets ready to leave, asking if he can handle the rest, to which Lin Yang makes sure that he will complete the rest and handle it from there. Back at the restaurant, Yingsha's mother couldn't comprehend the situation, as not even a taxi arrived there, wondering if Sanshin is sitting back at home. Not only her mother but also the family of her aunt, including her useless son, continues to insult Han Sanshin, while Yingsha's father tries to reach his mother to ask for help. Just the moment Yingsha shouts with her full force, the door opens and all of the people inside the room get frightened, thinking that the fat gangster has come back. But the person who opened the door is none other than Han Sanshin, and Su Yingsha tears up as soon as she meets eyes with her husband as he proposes to go back home. Suddenly, Jiang Sheng yells, asking Sanshin which house they are about to go back to, insisting that the fat gangster is waiting out of the door, which makes it quite impossible to go outside. Sanshin smirks, wondering what to answer, as he has already handled the matter secretly, but decides not to say anything and starts to leave with his wife, while Jiang Sheng continues to shout on his own. He notices that nobody there is stopping them from going outside, and notices the fat man and his companions kneeling down on the ground, which makes all of them, including Yingsha, puzzled, as she wasn't expecting to see something like that all of a sudden. She asks Sanshin why they are kneeling down out of nowhere, while Sanshin talks about them falling on the ground, as the fat man looks at him and imagines that Sanshin isn't someone ordinary based on his stature. The fat man agrees with his statement, claiming that the floor is indeed slippery, which is why they fell accidentally, while Yingsha detects the truth by looking at her husband's innocent face. She already knows that it must have been done by Han Sanshin, as he must have commanded someone to beat up the man for him, which only happened due to her own request made to him. Back at home, Yingsha's mother starts to argue with her husband about scolding her in the restaurant, while her husband berates her for promising her brother 200,000 yuan out of nowhere. Yingsha's mother claims that her daughter will get the money from the company, as that amount is nothing much for her, while her husband calls it embezzling public funds, which is completely a crime done against the others. He is concerned about Yingsha's safety, which makes her mother cry loudly as she starts to roll on the floor, calling her husband useless and her regrets about marrying someone like him. Yingsha's mother blames her husband for everything, claiming that she is the one fighting for her husband's reputation, blaming him for throwing knives at him by accusing her in the first place. She is quite desperate to get the money for her brother, as they are about to come to get it the next day from them, which makes her feel useless as she doesn't have the ability to do so. Yingsha then orders her mother to stop crying and insists that she will be the one handling the matter for her, while tearing up at the same time. The moment Yingsha opens the door to her bedroom, Han Sanshin asks her about her uncle trying to borrow money from them once again, and Yingsha asks for help from Sanshin by embracing him with tearful eyes. Han Sanshin asks Yingsha if 200,000 is the amount she needs, and she states that he doesn't have to worry about anything, as she will be paying it back to him in the future. Han Sanshin tries to act like he doesn't believe her words, which makes her say that she will be writing a receipt for a loan if he needed to trust her more, as she will keep her honor. But instead of agreeing to her statement, Sanshin makes it quite clear for the fact that his money is her money, and no matter what amount she asks for from him, he will be making that come true anytime she wants, even if the amount is 2 million yuan, as long as Yingsha asks them for herself, as he kisses his wife's forehead. But Yingsha insists that she will be writing up a receipt for him, making it believable, and shifts to questioning him for the fact of how much money he actually has in his bank account in the first place. To ignore the question, Han Sanshin claims that he just has some more than 2 million, which shocks the hell out of Yingsha, as she wasn't expecting to hear something like that. Soon Han Sanshin goes to the bank to make an appointment to check out if he can deposit more than 100,000, as he has a special card in his hands. The receptionist asks him if he has some facilities, including the card, which makes her doubt if the card even belongs to the bank, as she has never seen this type of card in anyone's grasp in her life, working for over half a year in her career, imagining if the guy came to the wrong bank asking for help. Han Sanshin confidently sits on the chair talking about privileges and demands the president to come to see him, as he will be eager to help him in that case. But his remarks don't amuse the woman, as she claims that her window isn't for someone like him to participate in the bragging contest, so he shouldn't be delaying her work in the first place. Instead of being haggled by the woman, Han Sanshin claims that only calling the president will confirm her doubts to check if he is bragging, but the woman reacts to his words, claiming that she will have to call in the security guard if he continues to act like a delusional person. After hearing the ruckus, the director of the bank comes in asking about the situation, and the receptionist then starts to explain the situation regarding withdrawing 200,000 yuan and the matter of haggling her in the first place. The director then behaves nicely and tries to make the situation clear for Han Sanshin, but he presses onto the matter by showing his special card of the bank to her, thinking that it might change her mind almost immediately. The director couldn't believe what she was seeing with her own eyes and started to apologize to Han Sanshin, claiming that his business would be handled on the same day while bowing down to him. The director then takes the card from his hand, instructing that he can go to the VIP room to rest while she will be doing the work of withdrawal, and fact that she is sorry to create the commotion. The director then shouts at the receptionist for behaving roughly with Han Sanshin, as it can risk her job if she doesn't work correctly from then on. While the ruckus is ongoing, the whole crowd behind them couldn't help but wonder who Han Sanshin truly is, as he is looking young and handsome while being respected by everyone, even the bank director herself. They continued to wonder what is happening, as if the young master had tried to handle the situation low-key, but the receptionist made the situation deeper herself, which makes her deserve the punishment. When the withdrawal is wrapped up, Han Sanshin prepares to leave the bank while the director and the receptionist say goodbye to him. The director couldn't fathom how someone handsome and rich like him can be in Yunqing, and it was remarkable how he didn't even look at her for once, despite her being so beautiful, sexy, and mature at the same time. She then instructs the receptionist to go back home to rest first, as she now has to wait for the notice, but she still doesn't know what did she do wrong even now. The director then blames the receptionist for still acting rough about the things that she has done already, insisting that she doesn't even know the basic knowledge of the bank, which makes her quite unqualified to have the job in the first place. When the receptionist still doesn't have any clue, the director claims that the one holding the special card which Han Sanshin had in his hands is only an exclusive customization of their bank. Not only is exclusive, but that type of card is only possessed by people who are filthy rich, as they have deposited more than tens of billions of yuan at a time, which shocks the hell out of the receptionist, as she didn't expect something like that. Han Sanshin then heads over to the house with the money that was supposed to be brought in for Yingxia, and as soon as he stands inside the house, the aunt snatches the whole bag from him, demanding to know why he took so much time to bring it. The woman then instantly claims that they have to do something before leaving, so they will be heading out instantly. Then Sanshin's mother-in-law insists that Han Sanshin should be sending them off, while her husband continues to wonder how greedy his relatives can be, as they started to head off without even thanking them for the cash, which makes it believable the fact that they will not even bother to return the money ever. Then inside the car, Han Sanshin continues to drive, while the whole family of the aunt continues to argue about holding the money, worrying if they will lose it, as they have never seen so much money in the first place. When Jiang Sheng gets the money to him, he brags to Han Sanshin, believing that he may have never seen so much money, and Han Sanshin agrees without complaining to the statement even for once. But he then advises the aunt to be careful, claiming that there are a lot of pickpockets in the city buses who can try to snatch away the money, which makes her yell in anger, as he was stating something unfortunate that can surely make their luck terrible. When they head off inside the other part of the city to get onto the bus, Han Sanshin gets a call saying that they have already arranged for someone to get to finish his mission. As Han Sanshin smirks like a successful man, he feels like it will be a shame not to see the whole performance in front of him, as it is about to unfold in a mere amount of time. Meanwhile, on the bus, the whole family continues to bicker about how the bus service is, as they are keeping on to take multiple passengers at once by stopping at various places in the city. While they are on the bus, someone with a huge bag drops on their lap mistakenly, and the aunt continues to bicker about it for a while, as the man apologizes to them for suddenly falling down. While the man says sorry for his actions, the aunt watches him with her narrowed eyes as she holds the bag tightly with all her force. After returning to their home, they do not find the money anymore, and the aunt has a horrified look on her face after seeing that they have lost the whole 200,000 at once. While the whole family is in shock, someone calls Han Sanshin claiming that the money has already arrived and they will be sending the whole package to him tomorrow, while Han Sanshin realizes that the whole incident will be a huge lesson to the greedy family. At that time, Yingxia opens the car door stating that they are about to eat together the same night, and it will be thanks to him on her behalf for helping her with the family matter. It seems that Yingxia has booked all the hotel rooms of the Grand Hyatt in the UFO building, but the time when they reach the place, the receptionist flips on her even though her booking time was at 5:30 and it was only 5:25. The man claims that she can reserve a place when there is no one in the place, but now it is full, and if she is willing to wait, she can surely reach the rest area, while stating that not waiting will make her leave for the day since they have no shortage of guests like her as an insult. So Yingxia continues to argue with the receptionist about booking the table, and there is no way she would leave without meeting her goal as she promised to have a good time with her husband. The receptionist starts to get rough, claiming that he will have to call in the security to take her out as she causes more trouble inside the hotel. As he finishes his sentence, multiple security guards of the hotel barge in and stands behind the receptionist. Noticing that the situation has gone rough, Han Sanshin speaks up, demanding to know what the receptionist means by causing trouble, as they are the victims in this case. But instead of accepting his own fault, the receptionist calls their behavior as harassment, which presses Han Sanshin to create a scene. But the receptionist commands his men to take out Han Sanshin and Yingxia, and his men try to jump on Sanshin as he is about to grab his collar to attack him. But Sanshin makes his placement quite predictably and punches his stomach, which makes the man lose his breath and sit on the ground. Yingxia, who is seeing the scene unfold with her own eyes, couldn't believe what she is seeing, as she never expected Sanshin to be on the offense like this, ever feeling that she doesn't know this version of Han Sanshin. Sanshin makes his voice clear by claiming that he is only getting started, which makes the receptionist command his other men to go up against him, but none of them are able to even scratch his suit as they get whacked by him in the air. Sensing the situation has gone worse, the receptionist then threatens Sanshin not to come close, warning that making trouble in Grand Hyatt Court will not be ending well for him, but Sanshin commands him to call in his boss. But before he is about to finish his sentence, the boss ends up entering the scene with his personal bodyguard, and the receptionist explains the situation to him. Instead of being mad at Sanshin, the boss is quite pleased with him after seeing his combat skills, as he was able to defeat multiple trained guards single-handedly. He proposes to Han Sanshin that he will be paying him 30,000 yuan monthly to hire him permanently as a security guard inside the hotel without knowing his real identity. The whole situation gets Han Sanshin more tempered than ever before, which gets Lei Chuan, the hotel owner, mad, and he insists that Han Sanshin should resolve the matter by apologizing to him. But instead of listening to his lecture, Han Sanshin replies back by commanding him to kneel down to him, promising that way he will be spared by him, as Yingxia keeps looking at him in pride. As Lei Chuan starts to lose his mind over the whole thing, Yingxia insists that it will be better for them to leave the hotel instead of making a scene, wanting to go back home, but Sanshin presses by saying that nobody will be able to harm her as long as he is with her. Sensing the uncanny situation filled with affection, Lei Chuan instructs his man Ahu to go after Sanshin, interested in seeing how well he can go against him. The situation is nowhere near simple, since Ahu used to be the fighting champion among the special forces. Ahu is ready to show his skills in front of Han Sanshin, but before attacking him, the man starts to threaten him. But instead of being provoked by the huge man standing in front of him, Sanshin decides to insult him by calling him a servant, which makes Ahu lose his mind over it. Ahu throws his hand trying to punch Sanshin with all his strength, and Lei Chuan realizes that it will be the end of Sanshin, knowing that provoking Ahu will only end with his death. But the punch doesn't land on Sanshin, as she dodges the attack and makes an uppercut with his leg on his chin strongly, which makes him lose multiple of his teeth. Bloodied Ahu lands on the ground, losing his teeth, and falls in front of his boss, who doesn't know what to do as he has never seen it coming. Sanshin makes his place quite clear in front of the boss, as he promised he will not have him, and his men have a chance against him. He advises the boss to call in as many men as possible, knowing that he will put down as much as possible to stand his ground. Lei Chuan feels that Sanshin is only being arrogant when it's not within his limits, and decides to call in Lin Yang, even without knowing what kind of relationship Yang has with Sanshin in the first place. While Yingxia is thinking about her man to be powerful, Lin Yang and his men barge into the place, knowing that Lei Chuan has brought a great proposal for him, which he has been looking for a long time. When Lei Chuan points Yang toward Han Sanchen and his wife, he gets scared shitless after seeing the face of Sanchen. When Lin Yan rushes in front of Sanchen, Lei Chuan thinks that it will be the end of his enemy, but instead of attacking Sanchen, the whole gang including Lin Yan bows down to Sanchen almost immediately. Seeing the whole scene unfold, Lei Chuan loses his mind while Han Sanchen instructs Lin Yan to follow his instincts. Lin Yan commands his men to attack Lei Chuan, knowing that it will be the proper thing to do, while Chuan lies down on the ground abused and beaten, especially puzzled as he has never seen it coming. He demands to know answers from Lin Yan, but doesn't get any answers, but only faces Han Sanchen, who then questions him about him making such unreasonable troubles. Then when the whole issue gets resolved, Sanchen demands to know if they are about to get any place or not, to which the receptionist claims that it will be possible. While Han Sanchen leaves with his wife to the hallway, Lei Chuan sits down on the ground wondering who this powerful man was that he had to face. When the hallway gets empty, Chuan asks about the identity of Sanchen, to which Yang answers that he is only looking for his death if he is about to go against Han Sanchen, which makes Lei Chuan wonder who did he provoke in the first place which made him suffer this much. Lin Yang then advises Lei Chuan to admit his mistakes, which is necessary for him to get forgiven his mistakes. After hearing this, Lei Chuan instantly kneels down to Han Sanchen asking for his forgiveness, which makes the receptionist wonder why even his boss kneels down to someone who came inside the door to fight against them. After seeing all these events unfold in front of her, Yingxia tries asking Han Sanchen about his identity, wondering what kind of person he is in the first place who can make that such impact, starting from defeating bodyguards with one punch, while Lin Yang listens to him as if he is some kind of god, while someone like Lei Chuan kneels down to him, is creating the suspense even more as time passes. She senses that he must have been spending money again, wondering how much he truly passed down to Lin Yang and his gang, but it still feels unreal to her, knowing that no matter how much money one spends, it will never make anyone that capable of making someone like Lei Chuan kneel down to a person. Yingxia is kind of flabbergasted to see that Han Sanchen has a masculine side, which makes Sanchen whisper into her ears, telling her to find out many more of his masculine sides if she is interested in that, as she begins to start getting embarrassed by his behavior. Then Yingxia asks him about making such fire this day, as she never expected when the day began, but he makes it clear that he will do anything in his abilities to teach the people a lesson whenever it is needed, as he promises to protect her for her whole life. The next day, Sanchen's in-laws, including him and Yingxia, are about to enter the newly bought house of his father-in-law's old classmate and friend Tang. The community they are in is supposedly all upstairs, where the house priced is about 21,000 yuan scum. Yingxia's mother claims that he just invited them to show off, and makes the clarifying fact that they shouldn't have brought Han Sanchen with them, knowing that Tang's son previously pursued Yingxia, while Sanchen is a waste compared to him to them. As soon as they enter the house, Tang receives the whole family in happy face, claiming that he has got a blessing since his son now works in the Qianxi industry, which has an annual salary of 1 million. He then remarks about the fact of asking Yingxia's father if he now regrets that his son didn't get married to Yingxia, who could have been able to get the blessings in the first place. When Tang makes insulting comments about Han Sanchen, all of their mates start to speak up, pointing out the fact that Sanchen still cooks and washes dishes at their home, illustrating him as a waste of the world. Yingxia realizes that the old people have started to insult and humiliate them, and at that time, Sanchen claims that their new house is renovating now, and when it finishes up, he will also invite him to the new house to play. Su Yingxia herself is also shocked after hearing the news, as she didn't expect to hear him say that, and at that moment, her mother shouts at Han Sanchen to shut up, claiming that he is only proving himself to be more stupid in front of the crowd. Then Sanchen expresses that he bought a house a long time ago, and he has planned to give them a surprise, which is the only reason why he didn't tell them. Not only that, but also, he is about to invite Uncle Tang to play at their home, which shuts him up quite nicely. While his in-laws continue to sweat in pressure, Uncle Tang lets him know that he will surely be checking out on the 15th of the next month if needed, and prepares to get into the house as the event is about to start. But instead of hearing him out, the others continue to ask Yingxia's father about the new house, asking if it is luxurious or not, and sensing the tense situation, Han Sanchen replies that they will not be disappointed, for sure. The next day, Han Sanchen and Yingxia go on to jog in the morning as usual, and Yingxia notices that the mountainside villa is being renovated, which makes her wonder why nothing happened after it was bought and now is being renovated so early. Han Sanchen proudly claims that they must have been anxious to move in, and Yingxia then starts to talk about her mother insulting him yesterday so badly in front of everyone. She apologizes on behalf of her mother and then points out the fact that her mother continued to berate him continuously after returning home, asking him if he is about to sell his body parts to make his words come true. Her insults didn't just stop there. She even continued saying that she should have given Yingxia to Tang's son, which might have gotten everything better for them in the end, as she called him useless. Han Sanchen doesn't feel bad, and instead of reacting, he embraces his wife, asking why she is apologizing to him in the early morning, claiming that he has been used to it, so it doesn't even matter to him anymore. He also reveals that he wasn't lying when he was talking about the house and remarks on the fact that he truly bought a second-hand house for them. Yingxia gets excited to hear about the house and asks him where it is, and he claims that it is somewhere in the town from where she can see the best view of the sky and close to nature. He then points out the mountainside villa, which makes her feel that it is unbelievable, as she didn't expect he will exaggerate the matter so much, which feels like she is listening to ghostly nonsense. Instead of wasting more time, Yingxia then starts to run quickly back home, as Shen Lingyao is still waiting for her to go shopping. On the run, Han Sanchen claims that he didn't lie to her, as she will be able to confirm it herself on the 15th of the next month, which will be a surprise to her, and she will like it as well. The following day, Sanchen's car gets stopped by the traffic police for not being registered, and while Sanchen realizes that it is true, he gets stopped by loud noises behind him made by a supercar behind him. The man in the driver's seat shouts at him with insulting remarks for dragging a cheap car to the Yundingshan Villa area and gets outside of his car. When the man named Shao Kong comes in front of the security guard, he insists that he shouldn't be mad at the incident, knowing that he will be letting Sanchen move away from the place so he can come in. But instead of calming down, Shao Kong yells at Sanchen for driving a cheap car in front of him, to which Sanchen answers that as Shao has broken his car, he will have to pay him for it. When Sanchen finishes his sentence, Shao Kang fires up once again, threatening him for the fact that he will make Sanchen unable to hang out in Yunqing, while insulting him by calling him a worker from some decoration company. He doesn't just stop there and calls his car broken again, and adds that he will smash it again as it is already broken. Han Sanchen insists that he is the owner of the community, but after hearing his words, Shao Kong laughs at him while shunning him by saying that he is none other than the boss of Cloud City if he can be an owner of the community. That is typically challenging Han Sanchen, as he smirks devilishly. When the security senses that the situation is only about to get worse, he instructs Han Sanchen to move away his car from the vicinity for the fact that he hasn't received an order to let him in yet. Sanchen listens to the man and decides to move on, and at that time, Shao Kong shows him the middle finger while calling him a dog at the same time to provoke Sanchen once again. Suddenly, the security guard gets an order via the walkie-talkie, as he was instructed to let Han Sanchen move in, as he runs up to him almost immediately. The man not only behaves well but bows down to Sanchen, asking him to forgive him, to which Sanchen acts humbly and advises him to continue following the rules all the time. The security guard is in shock as he has learned that Sanchen has bought the villa of the mountainside, which was sold for nearly 100 million, and the fact that he is the mysterious buyer, wondering what kind of reaction Shao Kong will make after hearing the truth. While Shao Kong was moving onto the road close to the mountainside villa's front, his woman was asking about its auction, which was done for nearly 100 million, which shocked the others. Shao Kong then claims that the information is true, as it has a mysterious buyer, and the reason why the villa is so costly is that the Spring Ong Yending Mountain can be seen from the villa quite nicely. While the woman continues to smother all over him, he insists that his villa isn't that bad either, to charm her in the process, as he is interested in moving the conversation into his bedroom. But shockingly, at that moment, Han Sanchen arrives and questions them for coming into his property without any kind of permission. When Shao Kong questions him about his motives, Sanchen makes it clear that he is the owner of the place, but instead of listening to Sanchen, Shao Kong starts to react badly, as he doesn't believe that someone like him can buy so luxurious villa while he only drives a broken car in the first place. When Sanchen finishes listening to the man, he makes it quite clear that the Yunding Mountainside Villa has strict rules if the trespassers enter the area without permission, since they have to get severely punished. Shao Kong gets mad at Sanchen after hearing him out and decides to leave the car to face him instantly, as he grabs his collar while threatening him. When the situation gets dense, some security guards approach them, and Shao Kong makes a complaint to Captain Yan by pointing at Sanchen to blame him for pretending to be the owner of the villa. But the situation goes differently as soon as Captain Yan notices Han Sanchen and asks him if Shao Kong is trespassing and threatening his life, while confirming that the people who sneak under the mountain villa area will be severely punished. Shao Kong couldn't help but wonder what he was listening to with his own 2 ears, and questioned Han Sanchen's identity once again, as he still couldn't believe that someone driving a broken Audi could own the mountainside villa. When Captain Yan realizes that the man must be from the Kong family as they have lived in the area for a long time, he insists that he will be punished. Shao Kong suddenly starts to fear what is about to happen to him, and as he realizes that there is no way out of the situation, he decides to kneel down to Han Sanchen after admitting his mistakes quite quickly as he begs for his forgiveness. The guards then force Shao Kong to come with them, and he is about to be punished, which makes him request Han Sanchen to let him go. Sanchen listens to his plea and decides to leave Shao Kong alone, claiming that he doesn't want him to face consequences, and for that reason he asks Captain Yan to let him go. When Captain Yan leaves Shao Kong, he instantly goes onto the feet of Sanchen, thanking him for forgiving his mistakes, as it would have been miserable for him otherwise. He then announces his name is Kong Wu and requests him to let him know anything if he needs help in the future. The day comes when it is the family dinner of the Su family, and in the event, Su Haiqiao starts to act recklessly, claiming that he didn't feel like Yingxia would be wise enough to keep up a good relationship with the Queenshi industry. When she remarks the fact that the deal would have gone far better without Haiqiao, he points out the fact that she has been spending too much money all this time doing dirty work, and asks if she doesn't fear that the grandmother will check into her. Su Yingxia doesn't show any fear and decides to attend the event without thinking about her own character even once. While sitting at the table, Haiqiao brings up the topic of Yingxia having 2 cars for herself, and if she wants to talk about it to her grandmother. The grandmother gets flabbergasted after hearing from Haiqiao, and Yingxia goes on to verify the information as if it is nothing but true. Su Yingxia claims that she bought the cars with her own money and not from the company's money, and at the same time, Haiqiao and Yi Han continue to make a joke out of her, as she isn't supposed to have any kind of money in her account. When everyone at the table starts to press about the situation, Haiqiao also reveals that Yingxia is about to change houses, which will be revealed on the 15th of next month. The whole family present starts to present on the matter of her relationship with the Queenshi industry, and as the grandmother gets annoyed by the whole endeavor, she asks for an explanation from Yingxia, as she doesn't believe her at all. But Su Yingxia is ready to give them every explanation and is ready to show them the ledger of the company to prove her innocence, as she is ready to be confronted. But when Haiqiao doesn't calm down no matter what, Han Sanchen stands up from his seat, claiming that it is his money to buy all the cars and houses, asking if there is any kind of problem. Su Haiqiao only laughs at the remarks made by him, asking him if he isn't afraid of any kind of humiliation, as Haiqiao is joined by the whole family afterward. Yingxia's mother loses her mind over the whole thing and starts yelling at Sanchen, and even when Haiqiao joins her bandwagon. Sanchen claims that Haiqiao is only a joke in his eyes. As the situation gets rushed into a commotion, Su Haiqiao jumps from his seat to throw a punch at Han Sanchen, as he dared to make comments about him, while laughing at him, as well as Sanchen stands still in his position in pride. Han Sanchen stands in front of Su Haiqiao while insulting him, at the same time claiming that Su Haiqiao isn't even close to being his opponent, which angers him even more. Soon, his grandmother yells at him, commanding that he should just stop and go back to his place, which makes him release the collar of Han Sanchen in an instant. But he doesn't just stop there. He continues to ask his grandmother if Su Yingxia has surely embezzled a lot of money, while claiming that leaving her be will only cause problems for business in the future, as everyone in the company will get inspired by her. But his grandmother flips on him by calling him out on his fraudulent cases in the past, as she had enough of him bullshitting her already. Everyone siding with Su Haiqiao, including his father and Yi Han, starts sweating in fear and confusion, almost instantly seeing that the incident has gone wrong for them. The grandmother leaves them, advising them to have a good meal, and at that moment Yi Han starts conspiring with Su Haiqiao, noticing that their plans have failed, and they might need a new way to deal with their problematic situation. Finding no new ways to deal with their problem, Su Haiqiao decides to do something when his suspension ends in the next month, as he will be returning to his daily life in the Su family company once again. Then his father starts to interrogate his own brother about the new house that Hangchen was talking about all this time. This incident instigates a new fear inside Yingxia's father, and as his own brother wasn't enough, the whole family starts to talk about it, as if they are quite excited to see their new house, while only trying to tear him down in the process. Yingxia's father bows his head in disappointment and fear, and decides to agree with their statement, saying that he will let them know about the location. Hanshin comes in claiming that there will be a car to pick the whole family up when the time comes, so they will get to know about the house quite soon. He also reveals the fact that since the place is quite special, ordinary cars might not be able to get into the area, which instigates Heiko's father to talk about the fact that his new house might be in the mountain alley since it is the only place where that can happen. Little did he know that it is truly what they are thinking about without even expecting it in the first place. Hanshin questions Yingxia as she wants to invite her grandmother, and at that time, Heiko's father brings up the topic of the mountainside villa once again, which makes Yingxia's mother stand up from her seat in anger. But Hanshin stays confident in his statement as he knows the truth behind it. Heiko's father claims that he is the one rejecting the invitation even before the event starts, so it will not be necessary to invite the grandmother. Back at Yingxia's house, she gets so angry that she starts breaking everything inside the house as she loses her mind over Hanshin not being able to control his own mouth. She insists that she expected to rent a decent second-hand house to fool their family friend Tang Cheng. But she regrets the fact that everyone now thinks that they have truly bought a house in the mountain alley. She even goes so far as to order Yingxia to divorce Han Sanshin while insisting that she should divorce him as she bets on her relationship as mother and daughter. But Yingxia flips on her own mother, claiming that there is no way that she will be divorcing him because of her insane talk, which impresses Han Sanshin as he keeps looking at his lovely wife. Her mother couldn't even believe even a bit why her daughter was protecting her husband and fighting against her own mother while she hates him so much. Her mother orders her to get out of the house and claims that she will not be seeing her face anytime soon, but Yingxia argues back with her mother, stating the fact that Han Sanshin was saying nothing but only the truth. Not only that, but also she clears up the confusion regarding the purchase of luxury cars and even the money that was given to her uncle. But there is no way her mother would believe her, so she continues to argue back with her, thinking that she is only trying to protect her husband in the process of argument. Yingxia's mother makes her final command by saying that the whole trouble was created by Han Sanshin only, and he is the only person who would be fixing it up, since otherwise their marriage will soon end due to the clash, as she will be forcing Yingxia to divorce him as soon as possible. The next day, Han Sanshin takes Yingxia out to a special dinner, which makes her wonder what reason there would be behind Sanshin taking her somewhere special to eat. It seems that the 15 days are about to come tomorrow, and he is about to take her to their new home the same night. It makes Yingxia question his consciousness as her parents are almost going insane by the whole endeavor. But he doesn't seem to be in a hurry, which makes her wonder where their new house is. Han Sanshin claims that he has already elaborated to her about the location, which makes her question her memories since he has only shown her the mountainside villa in the villa area of Yunding Mountain. She thinks that he is only joking with him, while the situation is clearly getting out of hand, as her dad's classmates and her relatives will be present the next day to visit their new house, and the fact that he still doesn't want to talk about the topic of the new house starts to get her insane in the first place. Sanshin insists that he is only telling the truth, but she just doesn't want to believe him at all, and just when Han Sanshin is about to have a sip of his wine glass, some guy comes up to Yingxia as he has recognized her from the distance. It seems that Yingxia recognizes the man, and it is none other than Tang Cheng-yi's son, who is the classmate of her father. She thinks that it is not that good of a situation to meet Tang Long so suddenly, and the woman with Tang Long starts calling out to Yingxia, asking if she is the woman who wasn't able to get his man. When the woman starts to brag about Tang Long, he tries to hide his arrogance and states that he is nowhere considered excellent since he only earns 1 million in annual salary, which is far from it. Then he notices Han Sanshin standing beside the table, and he makes it noticeable that Han Sanshin is quite famous in Cloud City. Han Sanshin decides to act humbly in the situation while trying to joke with him, insisting that he should have brought a pen with him to have his fan autograph, but Tang insults him by saying that he doesn't want the autograph of the first useless son-in-law in Yunqing, as he starts to laugh. Tang then goes further into insulting Han Sanshin, insisting that he shouldn't be showing his face to the public as he doesn't have the right to do so. Yingxia gets disturbed by the whole incident and stands up from her seat to shut him down by advising him not to disturb their date, which makes him go forward, asking if she doesn't feel bad after being together with someone so useless like Han Sankian. He brags about being in the Qianshi estate business and states that he will have the opportunity to deal with Yingxia later, as she is currently working with them at the moment. He claims that upsetting him will be resulting in getting no cooperation in exchange on behalf of the Su family, which shocks Yingxia, realizing that Tang is going too far in rage. Tang then also claims that she will have no ways other than crying and begging him, and Han Sankin thinks standing from afar, realizing that Tang should be joined by Zhang Liang's invitation. But he is pushing to find death early, which might make him do something hasty as soon as possible. Yingxia asks Tang if he is done using his stupid words for nothing and advises him to leave them be in peace. Tang pulses in anger seeing the bravery of Yingxia, but before he leaves, he claims that he will be going to see their new house with his father the next day and insists that it should be better than the house they have bought recently. Yingxia then comments that she doesn't welcome him at all, but she will have to invite him if he continues to want to show off for no reason. Tang then comments on various stupid remarks, feeling like he is the king of the world, talking about elevators as he leaves with his girlfriend from the restaurant while laughing. Han Sanchen remarks that it is quite unexpected that Tang can work in Queen Shi Estate and assures her, promising that Tang will not be messing with her anytime soon. But Yingxia seems devastated and puzzled when she questions Sanchen about an elevator inside their new house and if it is better than what Tang Cheng has in desperation. She proclaims that she wouldn't be able to see someone like Tang show off in front of her, as she will not be taken down by Tang Long and the Su family the next day. Han Sanchen then reassures her by calming her down and advising her that they will be going to their new house as soon as they finish up their meal. Han Sanchen is confident that those who are laughing at them will definitely be beaten by him the next day when they get to see their new house. When Han Sanchen speeds up their car with Yingxia to move into the way of the Mountain Alley Villa, she gets nervous and starts calling out to him as she doesn't know where they are going at all. Han Sanchen claims that they are about to go to their new house, but Yingxia couldn't help but wonder if they are going towards the Mountain Alley Villa, since they are forbidden to enter the area if they aren't registered to enter the area. As soon as the security guard starts to come in front of them, Yingxia gets more nervous, realizing that they will only be kicked out and ashamed in front of everyone, so she begs Han Sanchen to turn around the car as soon as possible. Yingxia thinks that Han Sanchen is about to get them abused this time, without realizing that he has truly bought a house in the area, while she still cannot forget about the remarks made by Tang some time ago. But instead of being ashamed or assaulted by the guard, he salutes them in respect and opens the roadblock, which makes her wonder what his reason might be behind the whole endeavor. She couldn't help but wonder why the security guard would be letting him go, wondering why Han Sanchen had the time to buy the security of the Yunding Mountain Villa. Soon they appear in front of everyone's dream house, and Han Sanchen gets out of the car before helping Yingxia to get out of the car. Instead of being amazed by the whole incident, she feels the heaviest shock possible, reminiscing about the fact that every villa in the Yunding Mountain is a private area, which makes it forbidden to trespass without the consent of the owner. At that moment, Han Sanchen claims that they are already at their house's doorstep, so she should just get out of the car and have a look, since it is her house as well. She couldn't help but wonder how something like this might be possible, as they are currently standing in front of the most luxurious and expensive villa in the whole country at the moment in Cloud City. Sanchen remarks that it will be their home from this day onwards, while giving the house key to her so she can open the door of her own house and confirm the whole truth behind it herself. As Yingxia is about to open the door, she feels shaky as she is unable to open the door with the house key. She asks her husband if there is any way that he would lie to her, knowing that if someone finds them trespassing will make their life hell if the owners find out anyhow. Han Sanchen claims that he knows about that already, but since they are about to access their own house, he isn't thinking about it much. Yingxia sighs and opens the door with the key, which only gets her even more surprised, and when she finally gets to see the inside of the house, Han Sanchen advises her to check out her own house. The house not only has the shiningest walls, but on that wall, a framed picture hangs, which is of their own marriage, where Yingxia looks quite annoyed, reminiscing about the fact that she didn't want to marry Han Sanchen from the beginning. Yingxia cries her eyes out as soon as she meets eyes with the framed picture of her marriage, and she claims that when her grandfather forced them to take the wedding photo, she didn't want to see the finished version at all, as she didn't agree to get married with someone like him. Now it has been 3 years and she thought that the photo was long gone, but she is surprised to see that Han Sanchen has taken care of it for all this time. Han Sanchen insists that there is no way he would lose the photo, but Yingxia requests and begs him to take it down, but he doesn't understand why she would want to do that. She then points out the unwillingness on her face in her own wedding photo and questions why he would treat someone like her so nicely, which makes her cry unbearably. Han Sanchen only answers her saying that she is his wife after all, and it is nationally certified at the same time, which makes it only normal for him to do so. After hearing Han Sanchen, she runs into his arms, elaborating that she doesn't want to see it so he can throw it away and burn it down, since she wants to reshoot the photo with him once again. Both of them get engaged in a romantic kiss as Yingxia finishes her sentence while Han Sanchen does the same, feeling astonished. When Yingxia gets a grasp of the situation, she releases the kiss and wonders why she wasn't able to resist herself in the first place. But at that moment, Han Sanchen gets up on her to elaborate on the fact that it was his first kiss just now, while Yingxia thinks the same in her own mind. After all this time reaching the first checkpoint of his life, Han Sanchen ends up asking her if they are about to have the first night of their whole life while touching her chin. But as Yingxia gets embarrassed by the whole situation, she ends up kicking him on the fact, insisting that he should get out as she starts to feel awkward. Yingxia runs away in embarrassment only to lock the door of the bathroom, and Sanchen keeps on knocking to ask her if she is about to hide inside for a lifetime or not, as she is forgetting that they have still to check out what their new house looks like. But on the inside, Yingxia continues to regret not taking decisions to take hold of the situation, thinking that men typically do the work, and now feels like she has screwed up badly. She thinks to herself that maybe the image in Han Sanchen's heat must be ruined now, knowing how she reacted after losing control. But while she is deep inside her thoughts, Sanchen keeps on asking her what brand her lipstick, only to provoke her even more, so she ends up unlocking the door in the end. Suddenly, her phone rings up, and it's her mother, who is yelling to know where she has been all this time, being concerned about the day tomorrow, knowing that they will have to arrange something to go up against everyone. She also insists that if Yingxia doesn't come back home soon, Han Sanchen will have to sleep on the street, as he has already done enough damage for them this time. Yingxia lies to her mother, saying that she is working overtime and they will be back soon when she finishes and wraps up for the day. Yingxia thinks of giving her mother a pleasant surprise, and she decides not to let them know anything about their new house. She thinks that everyone who is waiting to laugh at their face tomorrow will go insane and feel like getting slapped by her when the time finally comes. The next day, Tang and his whole family, including all of his classmates, are waiting for the car to arrive so they can visit the new house, and hoping to embarrass them there as well. He and his son continue to contemplate if they have a house in the same community or not, and his son looks confident, thinking that it might not be the case since they are way out of their league. They are unable to think that Han Sanchen could manage something better than what they currently have, as they still have the image of useless Han Sanchen inside their mind. Tang's son calms him down by suggesting that he will be changing houses if they end up buying a house in the same community, since they don't want to be in the same neighborhood as them. But at that moment, Tang suggests his son make better decisions when it comes to spending, as he shouldn't be making hasty decisions even though it is more than 1 million a year. Everyone in the neighborhood start praising Long, as he has a stable job to admire about, as they continue to shower him with praises. Long then elaborates the fact that he has been preparing to change to another company, and when it becomes successful, he will be telling everyone about that as well to make his popularity even more. The others standing around him couldn't help but wonder why he would change companies even though he is earning 1 million a year, since it is like a dream to them. Long starts to brag about going to work for Qianshi Estate soon, while making a point of the fact that Qianshi Estate is a sub-company of Yan Jing's Han family, who are supposed to be the top rich family in the whole country. As soon as the crowd hear about the news, none of them could believe how Yan Jing Han's family would come to Cloud City for their business, while others think that working in that type of place means that he is typically working for the Han family that has a boundless future in the end. As they wait, suddenly, a luxury bus appears out of nowhere, which gets them flabbergasted as soon as they notice a classy butler coming out of the vehicle. The butler gives them a green signal to them to get inside the bus, since they are about to go to Han Sanchen's house, so he will be taking them there. Tang and his son Long both are out of their mind about how expensive the bus tour might be, since it doesn't look like these sorts of guides cannot be bought by ordinary people in society. Tang starts to have doubts about their theories, so he ends up asking his son if he was right about saying that his friend will have a worse house or not. Long then claims that there is no way they would have a better house than them if they do not have a house inside the Mountain Alley Villa, which is the most expensive place in the whole country. Meanwhile, in front of the entrance of Su family's villa, Su Heishou, his father, and even Yi Han are flabbergasted out of their mind as soon as they arrive for not being able to grasp the situation. The butler of the luxurious bus elaborates on the state of the event to all of the family members of the Su family, that he had been entrusted to pick the whole family up to get them at the new house of Han Sanchen. Everyone belonging to the Su family grasps under pressure, wondering where Sanchen might have bought his house, and the amazing state of the luxurious bus makes them wonder more about what comes ahead of them, as they are quite unsure of the situation. They are now sure that Su Yingxia didn't really make money from the company, as the state of the situation makes them realize that she made millions at once, which is quite unbelievable. At the same time, some of them blame Yingxia for stealing money of the company, thinking that all the things they are seeing in front of them must have been made by stealing from the company, as she was handling the matter with the Qianxu industry herself. But Su Haiqiao is confused, remembering the conversation that he had with his companion, and most of the details continue to match that Han Sanchen has already sent buses to people to make them visit their new house, which matches the description of visiting the Mountain Alley Villa, knowing that too many cars aren't allowed inside the area. He burns in jealousy, wondering how Su Yingxia and his useless husband might have done something like that, wondering if they have surely bought someplace in the mountain valley of Yunding. Su Yihan continues to blabber about Yingxia to make the correct of the situation, thinking that she was moving away huge amounts of money under their company. Su Haiqiao claims that he will make sure of that once he returns to the company, promising that Yingxia will not be able to any kind of amount from the company anymore, while making her promise that she will be honest with him from now on, otherwise they all will be dragged into the mud at the same time along with the others. But while Su Haiqiao is taking deep breaths thinking about how to move on with the situation, the whole crowd of the Su family in the back of the bus grasped in excitement, feeling like they are moving into the wrong place, thinking that there is no way Han Sanchen could buy something so luxurious. They point their finger toward the villa area of Yunding Mountain and keep on questioning the guide if they are coming into the wrong place, and then the guide corrects them by saying that they are indeed going to the Yunding mountainous villa area this day. Instead of understanding the situation, people continue to ask the guide if they are the wrong people being taken into that place or not, and the guide confirms that he indeed made a correct decision, as they belong to the Su family since they are going to the new house of Han Sanchen. The guide calms everyone down by saying that they should just return back to their seats since they are the only Su family in the city. After making it to the entrance, everyone grasps and shivers as they are standing in front of the most luxurious place in the entire Cloud City, which was placed under 100 million bidding prices. None of them were about to find out about the owner, but all they know is that he is someone who has a lot of money and is nothing less than a gold master. Su Haiqiao and Yihan both are confused, wondering what the hell is going on since Han Sanchen decided to send them somewhere luxurious. Haiqiao only thinks that Su Yingxia might have framed them, since entering the area brings a lot of restrictions, which is considered an illegal tact for the trespassers, considering it is private property. Not only that, the consequences of violating the rules might be more serious than what they can truly think of, as they start to think that leaving the place might be their only hope currently. Haiqiao feels like he was about to be killed by Su Yingxia, who has conspired against all of them, as he starts to leave with Yihan and his father. But as they are about to leave the premise, the same white car driven by Han Sanchen arrives in front of them, and out of that car, Su Yingxia and her parents come out, including Han Sanchen himself. Han Sanchen asks if they are planning to go back home, but since they are already in front of his house, they should just go inside and sit down to enjoy their day. Without verifying the incident, Su Haiqiao holds onto his collar, almost instantly asking him if he and his family want to execute them all unfairly. At the same time, Su Yihan yells at Su Yingxia, asking if she doesn't know about the prorogating rules of the area, knowing that bringing them illegally will be a serious offense according to the rules. On the other hand, Han Sanchen squeezes the hand of Su Haiqiao, questioning him about his nervousness, if he is scared of their house being bigger and better than theirs, which might make him lose his bet. He then exclaims, claiming the fact that his grandmother knows about the situation might be harmful to him, while everyone in the Su family starts to blame the parents of Su Yingxia, as they begin to feel out of place in the middle. At that moment, Su Yingxia decides to speak up, as they are only about to enter their own house, and the fact that they are only trying to embarrass her own family members makes it truly unacceptable by astonishing everyone. Su Yihan thinks that she is only pretending too much, since someone like her cannot afford a place like that, and Yingxia ends up showing the key to their house, asking if it isn't her, then if it is her or not. Su Yihan claims that Yingxia is only pretending, but everyone will find out the truth when she goes to open the door. By observing the situation, Su Yingxia ends up opening the door of the house to make them realize how wrong they are to misjudge her answers, as the whole crowd gets shocked. Su Yingxia starts to get inside the house while welcoming everyone inside. Su Yihan knows that even as the person in charge of the Changxi project, Su Yingxia would never be able to make up so much finances to buy something like that. Not only the Su family, but all the classmates of Yingxia's father continue to wonder how someone like them could live in such a place like that, as it is such a hard idea to digest inside. Long's girlfriend then questions him about his consciousness, as he has already told everyone that Su Yingxia would never be able to buy such a place as the mountainside villa. Long claims that they might have borrowed the house for a while, but the idea doesn't seem so suitable since no one would have lent such an expensive and luxurious villa to someone even if they decide to pay a gracious amount. While Long continues to burn in jealousy, Han Sanchen stands in his own pride, which makes him think if Han Sanchen is the secret gold master everyone is talking about. But he couldn't match the description since to everyone, Han Sanchen is nothing but a waste in the whole Cloud City, which makes it quite impossible for him to buy such a house like that. Watching Su Yingxia, Long curses her in his own mind, wondering how someone like her live in a mountain villa, while he thought that he will be the one taking advantage of his position when she entered the Qianshi estate to make it difficult for her. He thought that his actions might have taken her to his bed, but he didn't realize that she would have the opportunity to live in a mountain villa worth hundreds of millions of dollars right now. While Long realizes that his plans have fallen through again, Yingxia's mother welcomes everyone to her new house so all of them can have a look inside. Despite everyone's jealousy, they are excited to see what a billion-dollar villa looks like inside, as Su Haiqiu and Su Yihan are still in their thoughts of digesting the whole incident unfolding in front of them. Su Haiqiu is heavily confused to realize that he could have slandered Su Yingxia by taking the company's money, but even if she hollows out the assets of the Su family, there is no possibility of her being able to buy the place. Then Su Yingxia continues to wonder if they might have taken Han Sanchen the wrong way, as their grandfather used to refer him to marriage with Su Yingxia. But it still doesn't make sense to Su Haiqiu, knowing that all these years, Han Sanchen only acted as a useless waste in front of everyone. Yihan agrees with his statement, knowing that there is no way someone so rich as him might have been humiliated in Su family house for 3 years. Everyone starts to praise as soon as they enter the house, feeling that their house looks nothing but noble despite its simple interior. As everyone begins to praise Su Yingxia's parents, they blush, gulping down all the pride inside, and Yingxia's mother faces her uncle, asking if the grandmother is about to come to visit them, while claiming that she might be blaming her uncle for not bringing her in their house. Instead of listening to any of the words, Yingxia's uncle starts haggling with her father, asking if he truly bought the house, as he remembers that a mysterious buyer bought it with a big deal, but there is no way that his wimpy brother will be that person, which makes it sound more than impossible. Her mother comes between, backing up her husband, claiming that they have bought the villa with real money, so there shouldn't be any kind of issues in between. Su Haiqiu comments about her family's financial situation, which makes it quite impossible for them to have someplace like this. When she notices that Han Sanchen is looking right at her and smirking, she argues with Yingxia's uncle, claiming that she doesn't need to declare the amount of money in front of them. When their questions don't get them anywhere, they start to make a ruckus, asking if Su Yingxia's family is dealing with something illegal, which might represent the amount of money they have right now, claiming that they might not want to be involved in such a thing at all. But Yingxia's mother starts to rage in that situation, knowing that she wouldn't want someone to talk about her husband like that, insisting that they are all abiding law and doing nothing illegal, so it doesn't give them any kind of right to make such ruckus. Then Su Haiqiu and Su Yihan come in, asking the same question as always, and not only that, but also Haiqiu comes in questioning Su Yingxia's characteristics, implying that she might have a secret relationship with some people who might have traded money for her body. Surprisingly, Han Sanchen and Su Yingxia were standing right in front of them at the moment, and Sanchen isn't amused at all after hearing the nonsense out of Haiqiu's mouth. When Han Sanchen doesn't say anything, Yingxia's mother calls Haiqiu out and insists that he should shut up his stinky mouth, as he isn't allowed to slander her family like that for no reason or proof. But Su Haiqiu isn't someone who can be laid down that easily, and as he asks the same question, Yingxia's mother shuts up on her own, as she has nothing else to say except for looking right at Han Sanchen narrowly. After staying silent for a while, Yingxia's mother claims that she isn't afraid of being sued by someone like Su Haiqiu, as the money came from the old man who compensated her husband, which surprises her husband even. Hearing the nonsense out of her mother's mouth, Han Sanchen smiles on his own, while Su Yingxia reacts quite badly almost instantly. Every son in the Su family now starts to talk to each other, wondering when the old man might have compensated their brother, and since he has passed so long ago, it makes it quite impossible for their father to compensate one of their brothers, realizing they might have found out about it sooner. While some of them question them about the small treasure left by the old man, others keep on asking them about its source, questioning them if they have taken the insurance money left by the old man, knowing they have the right to inherit the money at the same time. All of them demand to have a share of the money, which makes them feel that they all have shares in the mountainside villa, and after witnessing the story unfold, Tang and his son are quite happy as the whole family starts to clash with Su Yingxia and her parents. Su Yingxia's mother gets tired of the whole family's demanding shares of their money, as she claims that they do not have a heart, while instigating that the old man left his fortune for them when he felt sorry for letting Han Sanchen joining their family, and the money was left as compensation to them. Not only that, but also, she makes a fabricated story of some fake regulations, saying that they couldn't be using the money for 3 years, and that is why they had to work so hard for all these years to wait for this day. When Yingxia's uncle has a grasp of the situation, he senses that it is nothing impossible for the old man, knowing that he used to love Su Guiyou so much, and the fact that he forced Yingxia to marry Han Sanchen increases the possibility. He asks his brother how much the old man left for him, to which his wife claims that he has left 100 million for them, which leaves the whole crowd in shock. The crowd then starts to believe the story made up by Yingxia's mother, knowing that they might have been holding the anger all these years, and that is why they have been spending a lot. After witnessing the whole event, Su Yingxia looks at Han Sanchen, sensing that her mother is lying to everyone continuously, which makes her uncle's blood boil in anger. Her uncle then leaves, saying that he needs to go to the toilet, and Yingxia's mother knows that he is about to call the old woman to verify the incident, but she already knows that the grandmother cannot do anything in this whole situation. When Yingxia asks Han Sanchen about the situation laying in front of them, Sanchen claims that he doesn't mind if he doesn't get the credit for it, but it is her mother who is taking all the credit in front of the family and friends. He thinks that it is better knowing that none of them would believe that he is the one who has bought the villa, and her mother's explanation helped them a lot in the whole event. When Yingxia tries to say sorry on behalf of her mother, Sanchen reveals that there might be some other thought-provoking ways to make it correct, and that can start by letting him sleep on the same bed as her as a start. Soon Yingxia's uncle comes in front of the crowd, claiming that the old woman is about to face the incident soon, as she has already started her journey toward the villa. Yingxia's mother keeps on acting brave, claiming that the money was given by the old man, so she doesn't have anything to be afraid of. When Yingxia's uncle starts to talk about picking up the grandmother, Yingxia's parents realize that they might be in big trouble, since the security doesn't know about them, knowing the fact that it wasn't them who bought the house. Suddenly, Yingxia's mother calls out for Han Sanchen to order him to receive the grandmother from in front of the security border with a big smile on her face. Meanwhile, in front of the gate of Yunding Mountain Villa, the grandmother of Su Yingxia finally arrives, and she and Han Sanchen both go to face the security to help her get inside the villa. The moment the grandmother gets out of the car, she starts to ask Yingxia why her father didn't invite her to the opening ceremony of the house, and Yingxia tries to cover for her father, saying that he didn't get the opportunity to do so since many of his classmates are inside, which left him with no options. The grandmother then claims that they shouldn't be forgetting that the money that helped Yingxia to buy the villa came out of the Su family's pocket, insisting that the villa belongs to her as well, since the old man's money is her money after all, with pride. While Yingxia starts to converse with her grandmother, Han Sanchen realizes that the old woman might try to take the mountain villa as her own, which makes him prefer that he will be giving it in the name of Yingxia, as it seems like the best option to take. Suddenly, the old woman gets grumpy, saying that they will have to carry her back inside of the house, and when Yingxia acts reluctantly, Han Sanchen claims that they should be respecting the old people while following through with their orders, as he sits down on the ground. While Yingxia holds the cane of her grandmother, Han Sanchen starts to walk down the road with the old grandmother on his back, while she continues to bicker with Han Sanchen for not being responsible enough. As they continue to walk down the road, Yingxia feels like it would have been better for her if she could hit the old woman with her cane, but she keeps holding the thought inside her head, knowing that the old woman might try to take the villa away, thinking that it is the money of Su family. When they finally arrive in front of the house, the grandmother thanks her husband for leaving the house for her, as she desired the house for a long time. She then wonders if he might be the reason why she can visit the place now, but she doesn't know why he would leave the money for her son instead of her. As soon as she enters the house, she commands her son to let all of the other people inside the house, including his classmates, and as soon as they hear his mother, they start to move away fast from the place. While leaving the house, Tang and his son think that they are acting quite arrogant because of their current achievement, which makes Long promise his father, saying that they will take care of the old woman from the Su family in the future, since he is already working in the Qianshi industry. But the most surprising thing about the whole thing is that they have never expected the old man to leave so much money for his son to live such a luxurious life. But Long believes that spending money like that will leave them with only a little time, as everything comes to an end in the end. Moreover, he couldn't fathom the fact that some trash like Han Sanchen could live his life in a mountain villa of Yunding, while thinking that he might be able to buy a mountain villa someday if he continues to work under the Han family. Back inside the villa, the grandmother asks for an explanation from her son, and before he speaks up, Yingxia's mother tries to explain the whole thing on behalf of her husband. The grandmother screams in anger seeing the audacity of the woman and claims that she doesn't have any right to speak when she is not questioned. Then Yingxia's father starts to elaborate that his father left him the money when he realized that Su Yingxia might not be happy about the money, and the money would act as a way to compensate for the whole thing for life. As the matter was complicated in the end, he just wanted Yingxia to live happily along with the others, and at that moment, his brother speaks up claiming that he needs to worry about the part of his father's money as well. He addresses saying that someone like him might have threatened their father to get the money, and suddenly, the old woman claims that the whole family deserves to live in the villa if it was bought with the old man's money. At that moment, Yingxia's mother speaks up yelling about the fact that the money was only left for them, and she wanted to respect the grandmother, but she doesn't think that she will be dividing the villa for everyone. Instead of listening to her, the grandmother yells at her asking if she has the right to speak against her in this place, and Han Sanchen slides into the conversation to let her know about the rules of Yunding Mountain Villa. He claims that even though he doesn't have any kind of objection to the whole matter, she will need permission from another heavenly family first to make that happen. The grandmother then notices the audacity of Han Sanchen and questions his sudden change recently, which makes it truly clear that he is trying to teach her the rules. He then fires back at her stating he doesn't want to embarrass the old man while listening to her when it comes to the Su family. Also, the fact that makes it more dangerous is that there are many rules laying around in the villa area of Yunding Mountain that even accidentally violating may create a big problem for them. For that reason, Han Sanchen then charges at the grandmother asking if she can make sure that everyone follows the rules which make everyone grasp, while Su Heiko starts yelling at him, saying that he should just shut his mouth. Instead of stopping his mouth, Su Heiko continues to put dirt on his name by reminding his position in the Su family, stating he is only talking about Mighty for currently residing inside the mountain villa, while he is nothing but an outsider to the family. When he finishes, the grandmother claims that she had never talked about everyone living in the mountain villa, but she doesn't want him to make any kind of trouble while asking everyone to confirm if the money surely belongs to the Su family or not. Then Han Sanchen comes in asking what kind of qualifications the grandmother has to live in a place like Yunding Mountain Villa, which shocks everyone inside the room. Yingxia's uncle instantly gets up from his seat and Su Heikyo does the same, asking if he had taken the wrong medicine beforehand as he starts holding his collar to move around. When he starts to claim that he should be the one getting out of the house as the money was left by the grandfather, Su Yihen joins his bandwagon, ordering him to do the same as their grandmother is the head of the family having the right to live inside the villa. Instead of being mad at the situation, the grandmother insists Su Heikyo leave him so he can tell her why she isn't qualified to live inside the house. When Heikyo leaves his collar, Han Sanchen brings up the fact of how the grandmother behaved with Su Yingxia all these years and protected Su Heikyo from everything, while Su Yingxia lived in the family as an outsider. Then he starts yelling in her face, bringing up the fact that she didn't do anything when Su Heiko framed Su Yingxia and made her almost fall into the hands of Cheng Gang, while Heicho was forgiven in the end as if nothing happened. As Han Sanchen presents the reasons for the grandmother not being able to live inside the house, the grandmother starts to grin her teeth speechless, while Yingxia looks at him with tearful eyes. Then he replies to Han Sanchen only by telling him that he should be the one to leave the villa and Su Heicho can do anything he wants as he belongs to the family. The whole family starts to laugh hearing the whole argument when the grandmother orders Yingxia to divorce Han Sanchen, and Su Yihan chimes in only to order Yingxia the same thing. But it seems that Su Yingxia has made her own decision already, and she is not about to divorce Han Sanchen at any cost, since she is the one who married Han Sanchen in the first place. But the grandmother presses on to the situation, once again claiming that she has to do it anyway, and asks her if she wants to accept her verdict or not. But Su Yingxia isn't someone who would leave Han Sanchen for anyone right now, and she holds his hand even more tightly to let everyone see her love for Sankin. The moment she rejects the idea of her grandmother, she bangs her cane on the ground as she has dared to challenge her, and since she has already grown up as an adult, she has no further objection, so she starts to leave the villa. When Su Heiko tries to stop her, she claims that she wants to leave anyway, while Su Heiko makes the whole situation more insane by claiming that Han Sanchen might have been thinking to take over the whole Su family property in the future, which only makes it clearer if they want to check up with Su Yingxia's behavior. At that point, the grandmother claims that there is no way she will let that happen since she is about to take precautions to tackle the situation, which is Su Yingxia isn't ever about to be the chairman of the company. She then advises Su Haiqiu to contact Zhang Liang immediately for her knowing that she has something to talk about with him. As soon as Su Haiqiu listens to the good news coming from his grandmother, he starts to run following behind her saying that he is about to contact Zhang Liang right away. He thinks that Su Yingxia is about to suffer the massive consequence after a long time, which will finally make her feel like she is about to regret her decisions in life. The next day, Yingxia's mother lets her know that they have already picked a room and asks her if that is okay for her to do so, but when she notices that it is the master bed, she decides to question her where she and Han Sanchen are about to choose if they end up picking it up. She claims that there are many other rooms to pick up from so they can end up choosing any of them. Instead of listening to any of the things Yingxia is about to say, she moves on with her husband pressing on the fact that they have to start moving in instantly. Then his father ends up questioning Yingxia why would they want to rob him of his rights as they are already old and need a bigger space to avoid bumping into each other without asking about her feelings at all. Then Yingxia makes it clear that she has never seen them bumping into each other even though their previous house used to be small and cornered compared to what they have right now. Then when they move on, she starts to apologize to Han Sanchen, acknowledging the fact that her parents have made him wrong once again. But Sanchen isn't that concerned about where they are about to sleep since he only cares about staying in the same bed as her, which matters the most to him. He is ready to take even the utility room if she is about to stay with him in the end right now, which makes Yingxia bump into his head, claiming that her parents can go to the utility room by themselves if that happens. Then she asks his permission to question him about something, which is the fact that she is quite curious about how much money he actually has in his bank account. Because it wouldn't have been possible for him to actually buy the mountainside villa if he didn't have a mountain full of money. Instead of answering her question directly, he claims that buying the villa was like pocket money for him and asks if she would believe him if he said something like that. But Yingxia isn't about to believe something like that, as she claims that he might be some big-headed ghost who would have handled 100 million as pocket money, while Han Sanchen claims that it is the truth no matter if she believes in him or not. Then, after ignoring all his big-nose bragging, Yingxia claims that she would still support him in the future if he ends up running out of money for buying the villa for them happily. That makes Han Sanchen make a joke out of the whole situation, insisting that she even has to feed him from now on, as she is now the person in charge of the Cheng side project, so he will be counting on him from now on quite differently. Yingxia realizes that he isn't serious about the whole thing at all, but she remarks on the fact that according to the behavior that her grandmother has seen this day, she isn't about to spare her that easily from her grasp, knowing her previous records. She wonders how much time she has before she ends up losing her position. But Han Sanchen claims that she shouldn't be worrying about it at all since whatever happens, the Qianshui real estate industry will be working with her and with the Su family if she stays on the same boat. That way the old woman will never be able to deprive her of her status, which is quite marked in golden words for him. Then at the Qianshui Industry Company building, Su Haiqiu and his grandmother approach Zhang Liang, and they thank him for making time to meet with them. Then Zhang Liang claims that the old lady is too polite for him, and he will always make time to meet her anytime she wants, as she is quite important to him. After saying this, he then moves on to ask them what they really want, as he didn't know that they were looking for him. After hearing his words, both of them get quite impressed, and the old lady states that she wants to discuss their operation once again, while pointing out that Su Yingxia's ability is quite limited, and the fact that she wants to delay the Cheng side project is quite foreseeable. Then, instead of rejecting the idea of the old woman, Zhang Liang agrees with her statement by claiming that Su Yingxia's ability isn't as strong as they thought, but she had been trying her best since her learning ability is quite strong, which makes her quite capable of improving to illustrate her into a responsible person compared to the others. The old lady then decides to negotiate the fact by calling Su Yingxia responsible for the fact that she gets ready to do everything she can in her abilities, but she points out her humane limitations to point out the fact that there is always a gap between learning and perfecting something. The old lady then moves into the main point of their discussion, which is that she wants to change the person in charge in order for them to cooperate better from now on. As soon as she finishes her sentence, Su Haiqiu makes an offering saying he will be suited better to the project, even though he hasn't been able to participate in the project from the beginning, judging the specific matters of the project, promising a seamless connection between them. Su Heicho then goes on to brag about how he has a higher right and a deeper understanding of the whole operation, promising a better performance than Su Yingxia. The whole statement made by Su Heicho makes Zhang Liang ask about the credibility and power of Su Yingxia in the Su family company, which doesn't leave her the position to make the final decision, and stands up instantly from his own seat. Zhang Liang remarks on the fact that he thought Su Yingxia could speak for the Su family, but he had never expected that she wouldn't be given any kind of rights from the get-go. As soon as he finishes his statement, he starts to proclaim the fact that he will be needing to consider meeting the Su family's demands regarding their cooperation, which ends up making Su Heicho happy as he gets excited, claiming that it will be wise. But when the old man makes him repeat his statement, Zhang Liang makes it clear that no matter where the project is, their real estate business will not be changing the person in charge of the project, since this is what their boss meant from the start. The old lady gets shocked as she starts to correct her statement by claiming that it wasn't what she meant by being worried about Su Yingxia's abilities, but Zhang Liang isn't about to hear about it any further. Zhang Liang then announces that they shouldn't be putting his boss and the real estate business in their eyes, since there is no meaning behind them collaborating with each other in the end after all. He doesn't just stop there, but questions the capabilities of Su Heicho. He claims that they have been trying to change the person in charge to Su Heicho multiple times, but as they have already investigated his background, all they could find out that he is nothing more than an idiot who has zero credibility at almost everything. The grandmother insists that Su Heicho should be apologizing to Boss Zhang and to make over his mistakes. Heicho instantly kneels down on the ground to ask for forgiveness, accepting the failure on behalf of the Su family. He promises that they are never about to attempt to change the person in charge ever again, begging for another chance for their family, but Zhang isn't ready to hear anything from him, since there isn't no use in changing his mind anymore. Since Su Yingxia cannot speak for the company, while her low status is also delaying the cooperation between both companies. After hearing this, the grandmother grins his teeth, claiming that she will be giving all rights to Su Yingxia to make everything correct on behalf of the family business, so she can make any kind of decisions regarding the Cheng Excited project from now on, which will leave her in proper freedom, as she will not be needing to report to anyone, not even her. But Zhang still claims that begging is unnecessary and will be wasting their time, since his boss is the only person who will be deciding in the end. He then leaves the room to meet his boss Han Sanchen, while insisting that Su Heicho and his grandmother can just leave the company premise for real. Su Heicho gets nervous, realizing that their whole company will be gone in an instant if they lose the deal this time, and the old woman knows that Su Yingxia is the only person who will be able to fix this tragedy for them. In the moment of desperation, the grandmother advises that Su Heicho should start getting wiser and stop acting like an idiot, otherwise he is never about to become the chairman when he is needed. Meanwhile, Han Sanchen decides to have a conversation with his employee, Mr. Zhang Liang, regarding the matter of Su family, asking for their reaction when the announcement was made. Zhang Liang then explains everything that happened back in the reception room, and even the fact that the old lady wanted Su Yingxia to have the rights of their company to continue on her own accord and will. Han Sanchen is pleased to hear that Su Heicho knelt down on him, but he is still feeling bitter about the fact that the old lady didn't do the same. For that reason, he is only about to spend time making them realize how important Su Yingxia really is, while focusing on that matter properly. Then in the Su family building, everyone in the company starts discussing the dangerous matter at hand, as they continue to blame the grandmother for not asking any of them in advance, since Su Yingxia was doing a great job before they got involved in the matter personally. They feel like the cooperation is about to be over, which will affect everyone in the company, which makes them question the credibility of Su Heicho, realizing that he wouldn't be able to save them all from this death trap. The grandmother then sighs while sitting in her own position, knowing that the only thing she can do now is to wait for the news coming from Su Yingxia, as she has already gone to the Qianshi Industry office to make them come to an agreement once again. Suddenly, Su Yingxia enters the room, and everyone, including the grandmother, is excited and nervous to know about the current situation as they start asking her various questions. But Su Yingxia doesn't have any good news for them, as she had been trying her best to communicate with the company manager Zhang Liang via phone calls and even by visiting the company office, but there was no response coming from him, as if he is ignoring her permanently, as he refused to meet her for once. Instead of being sympathetic, the grandmother growls while questioning, asking her if she didn't try her best or beg for the company, which Su Yingxia ends up protecting, as she ends up throwing her bag to complain and reveal the fact that she has been thrown out of the Qianshi Industry office as she waited there for 8 hours straight. Su Yingxia had enough of their bullshit. and she isn't about to act like their donkey ever again. Since the grandmother and Suheiko took the situation into such a bad position, she demands they both should fix the situation since everything is out of her grasp already, as Suheiko and his father keeps looking at her with surprised eyes while the grandmother sits at her seat speechless. But the grandmother then changes the tone of her voice, begging Su Yingxia to think of a way, knowing that the life and death of the Su family now lies down in her hands, to which Yingxia claims that she is ready to do her best for the Su family as she belongs to the same family. The grandmother announces that Yingxia will be the one to be fully responsible for the Cheng side project in the future if she can manage to get back the proposition again. When the grandmother then asks for everyone's objections, Suheiko and his father claim that they have no objection to the matter, hoping that Yingxia will be able to resolve the matter soon enough. Even though Suheiko has agreed to the proposition made by the grandmother, he starts to react badly inside his own office as he decides to have a meeting with his father. His father remarks the fact that Su Yingxia not only has the power to manipulate the company matters, but she also lives in the mountainside villa, which is too much for them as they have nothing compared to her. Suheiko is desperate to find a way to make everything right for his own sake before they turn into people with low voices in front of Su Yingxia if she continues to succeed in her path. Even though his father wants the same, but he insists that Suheiko shouldn't be making any kind of mess around this time, knowing that their family business can lose its breath if he messes up like before. His father then asks him calmly if he knows the gravity of the situation in front of him right now, as he knows what can truly happen if he makes any trouble for Su Yingxia this time, which will leave the whole Su family bankrupt in the end. Even after all this confrontation, Heicho isn't ready to accept the authority of Su Yingxia in his heart. Then Su Yihan comes in front of them, both asking them to find out who gave her the betrothal gift, imagining that by doing that they might be able to find the solution to everything by changing their status in the Su family. She thinks that if more powerful people can cooperate with the Su family's business, they will no longer need to be subjected to Qianshi industry anymore, which is clarified by Suheiko himself as well. He then starts to think about who truly received the gift, and when he realizes that after Su Yingxia, Su Yihan is the only person left to be married, making it look as if it was for her only. After hearing the suggestion from Su Yihan, Suheiko claims that he will start to investigate the matter soon, and he doesn't care if the man values Yihan or not, as he only needs the person in his grasp to make everything better for him in the first place, as he isn't about to let Su Yingxia stand above him and has all the glory while he watches from afar. On the other hand, Han Sanshin notices that Su Yingxia is upset once again as she gets inside the car while he was waiting inside. Su Yingxia then explains that her grandmother and Suheiko have done something stupid again, asking Zhang Liang to change the person in charge once again, which left the man completely offended, that made him go out of the cooperation pact for real this time. Not only that, but also, she explains that the man doesn't even answer his call while refusing to see her as well, which makes the cooperation getting delayed. Then Han Sanshin claims that his old classmate is currently out of town, so he will not be able to help her this time, as he wouldn't be able to reach him. Then Su Yingxia asks her husband to help her in this matter, to which Han Sanshin pouts and claims that it will be a little difficult for him. But at that moment, Su Yingxia states that she will be sleeping with him on the same bed from now on if he does the job for her, which makes Han Sanshin start his car immediately to see through the situation, to which Su Yingxia gets surprised, not knowing what is about to happen. She couldn't help but wonder why he agreed to help her even though his old classmate is out of town, but now he is quite excited to meet her amends all of a sudden. Yingxia thinks that he only targets to get her embarrassed, which is why he acts hard to get all the time. The moment Su Yingxia and Han Sankin enter their house, Yingxia is furious to see her mother rearranging the whole house with useless decorations to make the house look weirder and weirder each time. When she thinks that the house looks better thanks to her arrangement skills, Yingxia claims that the house only looks like a junkyard right now, which gets them into a fired-up argument. When Yingxia reacts to seeing the cheap decorations, her mother asks for more money to buy the better version of the decorations to make the house look better, which makes Yingxia leave in anger as she leaves for her room. When Yingxia's mother wonders why she cannot arrange the home the way she wants, he asks Sanshin for his opinion, but he doesn't want to speak out about anything accurate. Then she goes as far as asking him about money from him, claiming that their family was humiliated because of him, so he will be the one compensating her from now on by handing them a good amount of money, such as $1,000 each month, despite the fact that he is the one who bought the villa with his own money. When her husband asks her to be quiet, she doesn't want to hear any of his words and insists on the same request to Han Sanshin, to which he rejects the idea of them controlling him, claiming that they aren't about to get a single penny out of him, as he leaves them both shocked. The moment Yingxi's mother remarks on the fact that Han Sanshin has been acting bold for a while and she needs to put an end to his behavior to deal with him in the future, a few security guards start to ring their doorbell. The security guards claim that they are from the property department of Yunding Mountainside Villa District, and they will be taking away all the junk that she brought recently to decorate the house. Then the guards enter the house almost instantly, and instead of listening to her pleas, they continue to take away everything that she brought for some reason, while she starts to haggle some of them while they are about to take the items out of the house. But the men aren't ready to listen to her at all, claiming that she is only hindering their work, and at that time, Han Sanshin is watching the whole story unfold in front of him from up the stairs. The moment she notices Han Sanshin looking at her, she requests to stop the men working to take away everything that she brought, feeling like they are robbing them in daylight when she wasted all her own money on the things. Han Sanshin claims that he is the one who brought the men inside, and she realizes how much he actually despises her and her activities. Then Han Sanshin reveals that he truly despises her, and she is shocked to witness the truth coming out of his mouth and demands him to bring all of her things back instantly without losing her fire. Instead of listening to her order, Han Sanshin demands to know what she can do if he doesn't listen to her, as if she is able to kick him out of the house, and at the same time, he threatens her not to move things around the house, as she wouldn't be able to blame him for being impolite to her despite their relationship. When Sanshin notices his father-in-law behind him, he orders him to take care of his woman while reminding him that he is the real owner of the house who can kick them out anytime he wants, so they aren't allowed to move anything without his permission. Instead of calming down even for a bit, Yingxi's mother calls him a jerk, claiming that he is acting high and mighty as he bought the villa by himself, and the fact that she wants Han Sanshin to learn a lesson to show him who is in charge of the family. Her husband insists that she is the one who is about to get them into trouble while calling her unreasonable, but she isn't ready to hear any of the words her husband has spoken, while questioning him about the fact that Han Sanshin doesn't have any qualifications to disrespect her since she is his elder, as she starts to slap him unconditionally. But her husband doesn't think that she is someone who can be called a proper elder, and since Sanshin is the one who bought the house, that leaves him with the authority to do anything inside it. Suddenly, Yingxi's father grabs her hand to put an end to her act, asking if she thinks that she can ride on Han Sanshin's back all the time. He remarks on her words to make her find out the differences between the previous and current Han Sanshin, but all she could say is that he is nothing but a waste of trying to avoid recognizing his changes after all this time. Yingxi's father agrees to disagree with her statement, saying that this is the waste who bought the mountainside villa, which she is nagging about so much, and since it is his own home, he can do anything he wants, as he can make her drive away from here. Then she gets an idea of getting the name of her daughter in the property title and certificate, thinking that it will be a safer option, to which Yingxi's father starts to feel hopeless about the whole situation, realizing that his wife isn't about to change ever. While she thinks of an idea to move away Han Sanshin from the position of the owner, Han Sanshin thinks that he should be hiring someone to cook and take care of the house, since it is quite big of a house. Then, while Han Sanshin is sitting inside the office of the cleaning company, some people start to make a ruckus, calling a woman a dirty thief, claiming that she has stolen all of their gold and silver jewelry worth tens of thousands and left. She also protests for the fact that the cleaning company didn't take any kind of responsibility for her activities, and at the same time, the woman doesn't want to admit it at the same time. The woman announces to everyone that they should be looking at the face of the maid, insisting that they shouldn't be fooled by her, while the maid continues to cry all over her face while sitting down on the ground, insisting that she didn't do the stealing. The moment the rich woman hears that out of her mouth, the woman throws a slap on the maid, once again demanding to know why someone like her would be slandering her for this little amount of money, as she is nothing but a lowly person, to her questioning if she truly lacks money. Then, when the rich woman is about to throw another slap at the woman, Han Sanshin gets in the middle to put an end to it, asking the old woman honestly, as she is the one being accused of stealing. Instead of calming down, the rich woman starts cursing Han Sanshin, demanding to know where he came from, and he decides to threaten to rip out of her mouth if she doesn't start to behave. The woman then doesn't listen to him and claims that her old lady's status in Yunqing is not something for someone inferior like him can imagine. But Sanshin ignores the woman and questions the helpless old woman about the truth. When the rich woman notices his arrogance, she gets furious in anger and decides to prepare herself to throw a kick right at Sanshin's back right away.